So, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bridge the Gap. This is the show where we talk to interesting people such as Don TheKing over here. We go through their life story and we learn a little bit about them. So, Don TheKing here caught my interest when I saw he started releasing these remixes to Montreal artists on Instagram, which I just want to give you your flowers on because I'll be watching a lot of people chase in a lot of ways, but to focus on your own city and to like showcase the talent here, bro, that's lit. I don't even see
Respect.
people doing that kind of stuff, so it made me real excited. But even bigger than that, he releases this tape, and I'm going through the track list of this, and I see my man Showbiz right there in the middle of all these songs, and I'm like, not only is this guy out there remixing music, making some beautiful sounds, he's going as far as to dig in and finding people that like honestly you got to be in the know to know about at this point. So I just had a lot of respect for that, and it's been a minute since we've talked to a producer up on the show, so I was hoping we could just kind of bring you on and run through it. It's a little bit different than your typical interview show, so I'm gonna just start this off with my little opening question. It's going to be a little bit of a story, and then when it lands, you can kind of answer it in whichever direction you want. And it all kind of starts off with my girlfriend. She was washing dishes one time, and she had that Black Eyed Peas song playing on her phone. The, I got a feeling, ooh. She's vibing and she's dancing and she's doing her thing. And I look at her and I had this thought, like, when in the fuck did this song become chores music? Because, like, if you think about this song, you run it back to, like, 2010 and shit, this is, like, a celebratory anthem. Everybody's turning up and partying to this joint. You run it 10 years into the future, and now it's a bunch of people like doing dishes to this song, working out to this song. It's something that people put on to go back in time to this like place where they were, celebrating and whatnot. And that got me just thinking about the journey of artists and whatnot. And when you look at a lot of these interviews and things like that, you see how almost everybody seems to be starting their journey when they first got into hip hop or when they first started making music or whatever. And it almost seems like there's this giant chunk of their life that's missing. And I say that because if you really think about people's musical journeys and you run that shit back to like the youngest person ever, like when you popped out as a baby, there was probably songs and shit playing in the room that was being absorbed by a little you. And it got me thinking about my childhood, like being like 5 years old in the apartment, and my dad had these great boxes, the amps and the preamps and the tape decks and the radio with the wires going to the little ghetto surround sound system he built, playing all these Led Zeppelins and things like that in the daytime. At nighttime, we had all that 90s club music coming out through MC Mario's and all these different Mix 96 things. My mom, she liked the discos and the musicals and the love songs and all this kind of shit. And the thing is because I was so young, I had no control over the music. You're just kind of forced to listen to all this shit that your parents be putting on. So I was hoping, Don TheKing, you could bring us back to the youngest version of yourself that you could remember being, and let us know both where you start your life and what it sounded like to be you before you had any control over the music.
Well, that's pretty deep there. Pretty deep to start off. Well, where I'm concerned, I mostly, grew up, in a Caribbean, mostly grew up in a Caribbean house, Jamaican, Grenadian household. And as I'm growing up, always exposed, to good kinds of music. Like, for example, always be exposed to like, good reggae music, good dancehall music, even also, hip hop and R&B too. So as I was growing up, always be exposed, to good music. So from a young age, I've been getting familiar with the good music from back in the days. Like you remember where Windows Media Player back then is concerned, where Windows XP where you used to have like the visualizer in the background as the music is playing.
Yes, and it would go to the beat and shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Them kind of days as I was small, I was, getting familiar with that good music. So, as I was growing up, I would mostly, me and my parents, we always, always used to go to these, events, these Caribbean events, these, Caribbean parties and stuff, and mostly Caravana and stuff. I'll mostly get exposed, a variety of, good music, like, good like 80s, 90s, reggae, dancehall kind of music, and it was just good stuff. And as I started to get older, I would mostly get experience, experience hearing hip hop music, for the first time, I'll mostly, hear a good hip hop artist, like, for example, Biggie, Tupac, Big L, Nas. And then I also, would hear artists too as growing up, like Chief Keef, Drake and stuff. And this happened from when I was like around like 10 years old, 8 to 10,
Right.
8 to 10 to 12 years old. I was just trying to, absorb them kind of, good music. And it felt pretty good to hear. And I remember being a kid and I used to hear that music and it was blown away because, never heard that, good music before. Very different than a lot of the music that they play in the radio because, the radio don't be playing that good stuff like they used to nowadays. So as I
That's
was
a
growing up,
fact.
I would, go to high school. Before I went to high
B-
school, I remember my
Before we get to
brother
high
did.
school, let's just stay here for a quick second. You were
Yeah,
from Montreal, like you were born here.
yeah, born in Montreal, born and raised
What part of Montreal are you from?
LaSalle.
Lit. That's Southwest things. Um, so you're growing up in LaSalle, and your parents are bringing you to a bunch of different places where you're hearing Caribbean music. Carabana is the big festival that they just canceled, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I went last year; it was lit, but I never really gone when I was younger. So given how much of our lives are all kind of different, right? So you're growing up, you're being exposed to this music like this, and um, how are your parents consuming music? Like in my case, it was a lot of radio and these tapes. It was always these tapes they'd play in the car and shit. For your world, was it like the internet's already full force and you're like your parents are just downloading joints? Like how are you guys actually getting exposed to new music when you're younger?
Well, back in like the mid 2000s, early 2010s, before Spotify and the internet became a thing, my parents will, have these, sets of CDs. So it's always, recorded
Mm,
on CDs, a lot of good music on CDs. So I'll basically, you hear the music playing the speaker, or basically you hear the music playing on the computer. And it's very interesting you mentioned how I heard the music because here's a story. When I was 10 years old, I remember that, I was absorbed the good music, think it was good music, but there was no internet to stream it. So the way I would, have a copy of this music, so to listen to it myself, I would basically get the Nintendo DSi. I remember Flipnote.
no. What is
Flipnote.
it?
Okay, Flipnote on the Nintendo DSi is basically, the app where you do animated cartoons. I basically, record your voice over it. You do like, drawings and stuff, make cartoon animations. So the
Right.
thing I so the thing I would do, I would basically, open up Flipnote. I would basically, record a snippet of the music that's playing, and where I would draw the animated characters, I would draw the name of the song. So each of that would be like 20-second snippets of, the music that's recorded. And I would also, use the voice recorder app in the DS and just record that music, listen to my own time. So before Spotify was a thing, I was basically using Spotify before Spotify was a thing in a way you never
Dude,
expected
that
to be used
that's
with a DS.
actually wild. Cause back in the day, we used to have the radio, and then you would put the tape in, and you would hit record, and try to catch the shit off the radio, just like
Yeah,
that, right? And you're taking that to a different level. Like, bro, I've asked this question. I've talked like a good couple hundred people now. Nobody has been like, I busted out the animation program in the DSi and then used the speaker there to create short videos from. Like, you were just on that YouTube shit before, like
yeah,
YouTube shit on your D. Like that's crazy to me because like I don't think I had a DSi. That's around when like like I kind of moved a bit in different directions. I'm an early adult now, as much as I had my video games, girls appearing a much more frequency and things. So it's like, priorities are shifting. So I
yeah,
missed that. I didn't even know that was happening there. But the fact that you were able to leverage the technology at your disposal and come up with a means of creating almost these custom music videos, which dead ass is a really useful skill to have as a kid through video games is a wild thought, like especially when you consider how much people were against video games back in the day. When you hear how kids were
yeah,
using it, like some people used to use their PlayStations to record mixtapes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So
thing about that, Yeah,
Yeah, go on.
go continue.
No, no, go for it.
And the thing about that too is I was doing that from I was from like when I was 10 years old. I was doing that.
That's crazy to me. And so, like, before that, did you have interest in music? Like, when you were like young, did you like want to be a singer or like you dancing around? Like, did you have a connection to music beyond hearing it, or were you just like a fan?
When Well, I remember, I started off as a fan, because, I always used to love the music that's playing. Then as I was in grade four, as I was 10 years old, I decided, decided to write a rap song, decided to write a rap song as a joke, say it to my friends as a joke. I didn't really, take it that much seriously. Just decided, hey, check what I wrote, based on the music I would hear. Cause, from when I was in like grade 10, the music I listened to that time was like mostly Drake and Chief Keef. So when I wrote that was kind of like, Drake, Chief Keef influence, but it was just me, just saying some kid stuff, just as a joke.
Right. That's
Yeah.
cool though. I didn't realize how big Chief Keef was till much later on, but it's wild that you're putting Drake and Chief Keef as like these are the two, man. And I guess that's it. If you were at
Yeah.
that age at that time, it was Drake and Chief Keef.
Because that was the music that was popping at the time, especially, what Drake's song, the motto, I'm a man, you don't get it, do you? And the song Chief Keef, what's the song? I don't know them, I don't like. Those are the big songs at the time. So it's impossible being that time and not hearing those songs.
That's true. Um, I remember ignoring them at that point because I was like starting to embrace the old man side of things. I was not that. It took a long time to like Chief Keef. Now I fucks with
Yeah.
it, but like it took me a minute. So that's like the stuff that was inspiring you back then. But before that, you said you got into animation and you were like drawing on the thing. When did you get into drawing? Was that like something that you've also been doing when you
Well,
were a kid?
well, the thing I would do back then when I was a kid too. I would have an interest. Not only there are three things I would have an interest from a young age. That would be like, well, music came on afterwards, but the first two things I was interested in was art and writing. Because, my strong suit was, writing. I would always like to write and, tell fictional stories. I remember too, I would, get printing paper. I would just fold it together and just make my own comics and just, write my own
That's hard.
story. Then when I was smaller too, during that time, I would, practice and coloring books, practice, coloring the lines in them Spider-Man comic books. So you could basically say that's where my, art interest started at that age.
So Spider Man helped you get into art.
Basically.
That's lit though, cause yo, if you look at like a lot of people like comic books. And like yo, I've been talking. I've had the pleasure of talking to some '90s rappers and shits like that. People that like really grew up in like New York at that time. There's this wild number of people whose like career honestly starts with I started drawing comic books when I was a kid, and then it moved on into all the musical shit. So like that puts you in some company of some great people is all I'm saying. And it's really cool to me. Like my best friend does comic books. So like whenever I hear that, I'm like, that's wild. Were you like inventing worlds and like taking notes on all the characters, or were you just kind of more impulsive with it?
Well, when I used to do these comics, basically, it would be like inspired from a lot of novels, from a lot of the comic book novels I used to get from school. So basically, like create my own story, but based on that influence of those old comics that I used to read that I liked a lot.
Right. That's cool. So then around 10, you start writing your first rap song. You decide
Yeah,
this is the
grade four.
flex.
Yeah,
You start showing it to your friends. Did they like it?
yeah, they liked it. Yeah, they liked it. They was laughing too because I just tried to write that as a joke too. But it's pretty cool. They was happy about it. Because
Cool. So you,
I had fun with it, and they saw I had fun with it. So.
and you kept going from that point?
Well, from that point, as I was 10 years old, I just wrote it one time, and then I just forgot about it. Then I remember too one time I was around 12 years old, and my brother basically gave me a laptop as a gift basically, and then I would do my thing. Then a year later, when he became 13 years old, that's when basically I started to have interest, in doing music. So, I wanted to record, my first few tunes. So I installed Audacity. Then basically, record my
Bro, you
music,
were able
use
to
it.
just install Audacity at 13 on a computer. That's a wild thought. I know for you this
Mm,
might seem like basic, but I'm 35. So sometimes I know that the people watching the show are going to be my age. And people my age have this habit where they don't realize that people that are younger also got access to Audacity and shit at the same time we did. So we were all
exactly.
adults doing this, and you were like 13 doing this. We all had the same YouTube and shit. So a lot of times, what I think happens is y'all hit your early 20s, and we're all like, they're kids. Because back when we were young, we didn't have access to this shit. But y'all seem to have been doing this for like years and years and years and years by the time you're an adult. And I feel like it's just worth pointing out to the world that somebody like you got access to the tools at 13 years old with the time to like explore it.
Yeah, because basically during that time, I had like free time, basically, write some raps. So basically I wanted to figure out what would be a good platform for me, to record vocals on. Then I'm coming across, Audacity. So basically, installed it. I'll basically, use like earbuds and I record using the laptop microphone. And back then, remember when I used to record, my very first music, there would be a thing I used to do where I'd be like, pitch down, or I used to pitch down the vocals because, during that time, my first thing doing it, I was kind of shy doing it. So basically, I pitched down my vocals. I'll make it, unrecognizable. But, as I started doing, I started, build up more confidence. So I stopped pitching my vocals and just let my vocals stay the way it is. And it was basically like a, young 30, young kid, a young Don TheKing rapping. And from that time too,
Were you
before I
releasing it
went
at
by the
that point?
what?
Were you releasing those songs when you like pitched on the vocals and stuff, or was that just like stuff you made for your vault?
Well, when it came to them songs, I used to make a lot of them songs, for personal thing, and then I would release, like couple of months later, I'll start releasing a little bit of it on my Facebook. It was just one pitch down song, just one pitch down song. Then the rest would basically, be like, with my regular voice. Because when I was doing that stuff back then, before I went by the name Don TheKing, I was going by the name, Playa Don. They used to be my old rap name. They used to be my old rap name back then. That's back when I was, doing this for fun.
Right, right, right. And you're young. And when you're
Yeah.
young, you come up with the best names, and then you get older and you think about those names.
During that time, that was the hardest name I could come up with during that time.
But to be honest, though, Pleiadon's not bad. It's a pretty good name.
Yeah.
And so you're still like 13. You're putting it out on Facebook,
Yeah.
and you made little videos with it, or like, so you, how did you like? I guess how did it go for you? Like you're at the point where you're like 13 trying to release music. Walk us through like that experience for you, because even now the kids have distro kids, so it's already different.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, when it came to my early stages of well, before I talk about release, I want to go and talk about more how I would record these music. I
Run it.
mentioned previously that I would use Audacity. Then when I would record some other songs too, but because my laptop stopped working, so to use a desktop computer. So the way I would record these songs is that I would basically grab my iPhone. I would basically grab my iPhone and record my vocals, using my iPhone. Before I use the voice recorder, I'll basically open up the camera, have my hands covering the camera. Then I'm basically, rap in front of the camera, over the beat. Then I'll basically layer me rapping with the instrumental track playing in Windows Movie Maker. So basically put that together as one song. Then basically, put like, handmade cover arts, basically, cover art drawing and stuff. So mostly uploaded, with just audio. Then when it came to like doing videos, I would just basically, record, just little music videos, me in selfie mode on the iPod Touch. On the iPod Touch back when I was iOS 6.
That's wild. So you've been just like leveraging all the tools at your disposal to make content now, and it's crazy that like that the world went from like fat camera, like it's still like, don't get me wrong, a fat camera that does everything nice is always perfect, but like we were just in New York honestly filming on iPhones and tablets because like the shit's good enough. So it's like you really were developing the skills you need to create content in the current era, like way back when most of us
Exactly,
were like
because
being too bougie to even figure out how to use tablets right.
yeah, exactly, because during that time, that's the foundation. It's during them times where you just figuring stuff out, which have an impact, and you being the kind of experienced person you are right now. It's basically boys back, to the stuff they used to do back then. You were frigging stuff out concerned that have an impact in the field. You're trying to find success in.
Right. So you're doing that in high school. I guess you're running through that process, or even
Yeah.
yeah, 13. You're in high school, and you're releasing music. As a teenager, releasing music, does this impact your social life? Are people like bigging you up? Do you become like the cool kid all of a sudden?
Well, I remember when it came to like, releasing that kind of music, to my friends to be hyped. My friends to be hyped too, they'll be happy, because they see that I'm rapping and stuff too. And usually when they go to school and they start doing that kind of stuff too, because most of my people on my Facebook are like friends, from high school and friends, that went to other high school, but mostly the majority of those friends were friends, from high school. So they'll, you hear that stuff and they'll like, big me up and hype me up. And not long after I released this track, there was a thing I used to do too in my high school. At my high school, I would basically, be mostly doing rap battles. I'll be,
Mm.
mostly rap battle against people. And during that time I was doing that, when I went to my high school, nobody else
Which
was
high
doing
school did
rap
you go to?
battling. Hmm?
Which high school?
LaSalle High School. LaSalle
Right.
High School. Yeah. So basically, it'll be mostly doing rap battle and stuff, rap battling. Because during that time, nobody else was doing that stuff. And when I was doing it with other people, the whole school would be so hyped. I remember one time we would do it in the hallway near the exit. I would be so big, so packed up. Literally, the principal have to, break us up and would basically, do it in the field and I'll, say some, slick bars and stuff. We would do it in like the pizza shop near the school. We would do it inside. We would do it out. So basically, mostly anywhere in the school, we would just, just be spitting and it would just be a fun experience. And not long after I started doing rap battling, I started seeing, a lot of people after me start doing rap battling in school. So basically, you could say I was like the first, one of the first to be doing rap battling because ever since
Well,
the majority of the people, the big kids in the school, see me doing it. Everybody else afterwards started doing it.
at least at your school. I could say definitely other people did this at other schools, but it's cool to know that you kicked it off at like where you're at and doing your thing. And
Because
that's pretty
everybody
hard.
be interested to see it. Everybody be interested, to hear what I gotta say. And just be packed up, packed up.
Yeah, that's wild. So you're doing all this. You're running through high school, releasing music. Do you, outside of these battles, do you get like actual performance opportunities?
No, those just be, just mostly for fun. And so I wasn't taking it that seriously.
So yeah, just for fun, you're building up a whole fan base. You know, you're tearing it up at school. Um,
Yeah.
and then I guess what kind of happens next as you're running through high school? Like, do you are you pursuing other shit at the same time? Like, do you have like are you into sports? Like, what's going on in your world?
Well, mostly when I was in high school, and stuff, I was mostly, doing regular studies. So even though I would mostly have fun doing rap battles, I would mostly, take school seriously because school to me, always come first. Nothing come before school. So I would mostly be focused in doing my schoolwork and, having fun with my friends too.
Right. Um. So after high school, like I guess, does it shift for you? Like, what kind of changes, like in terms of
Well,
music? Because at
I
some
would
point,
say
yeah, go on.
Well, I would say not mostly after high school and like, my midpoint, like when they started going to like sec free. I remember too when I was playing on, I decided, I want to take my, music, more seriously. So I decided, change my rap name from Play Don to Don TheKing because, when I became Don TheKing, I see, there's a lot of, stuff going on in the world and stuff going on in the world and stuff, stuff happening, stuff happening, around my environment that I hear about stuff. too, And as I was playing Don, I was mostly, just choose to rap about, foolish topics and stuff. Wasn't taking it that serious. It was kind of like, playing it safe. So, to say, forget play Don. Let me just be Don TheKing and take this seriously and talk about, real stuff. Cause I feel like when I was playing on, even though I was having fun, I felt like, I was in, keeping it as real as they want to, keep it real. So, decided to be Don TheKing and decided, start keeping it more real. So that's happened like when I was like, 15 years old too. And I started, becoming Don TheKing, making music as Don TheKing. I started, feel more happy with the music I was making. So happy to the point whenever I listen to the old music I did and was played on. To this day, feel embarrassed listening to the old stuff, but it helped make me the artist, the producer I am today.
I think we all go through this experience of going back to our older content and feeling it's a little foolish, a little younger than we are
Yeah, just
today.
cringe.
But it's good though,
Yeah,
cause like, yeah, but it's good though, cause like, if you like look at just your career so far, bro, like you're having epiphanies at like 15 that grown ups are still trying to figure out and shit. You decided to kind of like just shift into something more mature. I guess the social climate of the last few years has been kind of weird. It's not a new thing.
yeah,
As much as people act like COVID is the beginning of it, I'm like, nah, shit's been kind of weird for a hot minute.
yeah,
And I think it's cool that you chose to take like a more focused approach to your shit and
yeah.
then reinvent.
And at the same time too, as I was 15 years old too, I was starting, notice, the reality of the real world too. Like I remember when you hear some stuff happen, you hear some terrible news. Like for example, I remember I was watching America's Most Wanted. I remember seeing an episode. They ended up finding out that there was like this teenage girl, and they end up finding out this teenage girl and end up killing her parents. And when they found that out, I'm like, yo, so crazy, how you have a lot of people like this, in the world that exists, then end up finding out real world stuff, so as a result, I started making, music, more conscious kind of music that is reflective of, of the world around me. Because I know that if I make that kind of music, people correlate to this. People can mostly relate to the music that's coming from Don TheKing more than the music that's come from Play It On, because Play It On just foolish stuff. A lot of people can't relate to that. So I decided, change myself into, Don TheKing, and I feel more proud of it. And to this day, I'm still going by that name, Don TheKing. So that was the best choice I could ever make.
It's a strong name. And if you think about the power of it, being a king is not a weak position to be in. And there's like all the extra
And plus
meanings that
two,
come into it. Go on.
yeah, and plus two, with Don TheKing too. Not only I chose that name too because it's a nice name too. At the same time too, I want to be a trend. I also want to be a trendsetter too. I don't want to be a person following trends. I want to be the person, to set the trend, set the wave.
Right. Which is what we should be aspiring for, especially in art. Unfortunately, a lot of people do follow trends, but I suppose you need people following trends, otherwise, you don't have a trend. So, to be a trendsetter, there has to be trend followers, but you still get to choose where you fit onto this spectrum. When did you start producing, or were you producing like the whole time?
Very good question. Remember during that time I told you that, I ended up using Audacity and I recorded my first few tunes? Well, not long after that, I remember when I was smaller. Before that. I remember when I was smaller, a kid, going back to the kid again. Remember my main goal, is to be an inventor, always to create new things. So fast forward back to Audacity, during that time of Audacity, the thing I also want to be too as a producer. I remember I said to myself, I want to be a record producer, like Dr. Dre and them and stuff. So the thing I end up doing, I end up installing FL Studio, the free trial version of FL Studio. Then, I would and watch endless YouTube tutorials and stuff, just how to get around using FL Studio. So in my very first productions, using FL Studio, using the stock sounds, just putting, random stuff together. Then a lot of them productions, a lot of the songs I put out from when I was in high school, I'll basically, mostly rap on those productions. So it's basically, rapping and producing at the same time. And even from back then too, it was, professional I need to be, but just something I put together just to rap over stuff. So that's why I first discovered FL Studio at the age of 13, 14.
So yeah, so you're
That's FL
basically
Studio 11.
fair. So you're just sitting there making your own beats and then also recording and engineering your own self, kind of turning yourself into a one-stop shop. Plus, you're also practicing the videos because you said you were doing your selfie game a little bit. So,
Yeah.
as you're pursuing all this, do you find like you're gaining some kind of a following online?
Well, I do notice that, when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I'm slowly, building a slow buzz. When you're starting this, so you're not gonna, get it right away. It takes time. So as the years, as I kept doing this, I would notice that, my following started to get more bigger. And I would notice that people, would recognize, what get familiar with hear my music and stuff. I remember it was one time I went to a flea market when I was 16. I remember I was walking and a person came across and say, Don TheKing. So the moment I heard that, I noticed that,
That's crazy.
people are starting to get, familiar with my music and stuff.
So this random stranger saw you from the internet and knew who you were at the flea market.
Not, what random stranger, mutuals.
Right, right, but somebody like recognized you from your
Yeah,
efforts.
yeah, yeah. Some people, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So like you start producing and all this. I guess kind of how does it evolve from the 15-year-old age? What kind of do you start collaborating with people? Does it what kind of comes next for you?
Well, after I started doing producing, I almost, indulge myself, in knowledge of how to, produce better sounding beats. So I basically install, sound kits and stuff and perfect my craft even more. Then, I'll, branch out and collaborate with producers, who's starting out like me too. So I'm also, collaborate, with producers who's in my circle. Then, collaborate, with producers that, that live, far from Canada too, but they'll mostly be, following my music. So, I'll just basically, collab with them. I'll mostly do the melody. They'll do the drums because back when I was producing, the thing I was good at when I was producing back then when I was starting out was like the drum patterns. I wasn't really that good in, doing melodies and stuff. So I'll mostly, get like loops from Looperman and stuff. Just, Looperman the thing and
Right.
just, just slap drums over Looperman loops. But at the same time, I was doing that, I was starting to get tired as I started doing it because, I actually want to, learn how to make my own melodies. So the thing I would do, I'll go on YouTube and learn how to make good melodies. So as I started doing, I started to branch out, make my own melodies, make my own sound, develop my own identity as a producer. And I started and I was, was happy to, because, I'm happy on the fact that, that I branched out and didn't become comfortable in one spot. I just want I was happy with the fact that, I branched out. I want to do my own thing and I want to try something different. Got out my comfort zone. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm happy with the
Right.
fact that I got out my comfort zone and started, making melodies and started developing my own sound. Cause I have some producers these days, that's so comfortable with downloading loops that they don't see themselves beyond the loop stage because some of them, just don't want to take risks. I mean,
Yeah, it's not even that different with vocalists. It's the same type of shit. People be rapping about similar content, similar flows, and so it's funny. Like the short term play, this will get you more money and clout faster. Because like if you play the type beat game as an example, you're probably gonna sell more beats right away because that's just what people are looking for. In the same way that if like your whole artistry for rap is based on yo this shit's popping so I'm gonna make drill now, yo this shit's popping so I'm gonna make this now, like you're probably gonna
yeah,
get more like placements on playlists quicker than a lot of people trying to make unique art. But longevity, nah, it's not there because when you make your own art you can define your own way. Like I reached a point, I'm like 10 years into this shit now, like, and I reached a point where it's like I can adapt to whatever the fuck is happening. If if I gotta go tone it down or whatever, I'll find my version of shit and make it fly in my own way. It's not gonna pop with everybody, but nobody's doing it like me. And that's the goal I was trying to go for, which creates like deeper, loyal fans, I find. At least if you're trying to do the underground shit. If you're trying to do like the pop shit,
and pl-
you're a product and it's mad different. But
and at the same time too, as you're trying to, create your own wave and sort of, hopping on what's popular too, because that's gonna make you hot today and cold tomorrow. So at the same time too, you start feeling good about yourself. You start feeling, real yourself. Cause what's the point of doing all that kind of stuff, doing all that fake stuff, hopping on trends when you look in the mirror, you don't even feel good about yourself. You don't even feel good about what you're doing. Nothing's more better than you just look at yourself in the mirror and like, wow, I feel good in myself. I actually feel proud and good at what I'm doing, and nothing's better. Nothing can replicate that feeling. So eventually, a lot of them producers that's playing the game right now, there's gonna come a time in the life eventually. We're just gonna have that self-reflection period. We're just gonna sit down and just be like, wow, I'm being real myself right now. Eventually, they're gonna come to that point. Eventually,
eventually, maybe. I've met a lot of artists. It's 50-50 if they
eventually,
come to that point.
that's if they want to come to that point. Because you have some people that comes to that point, and some people that choose not to come to that point, and still choose to be in that same spot. So that don't apply to everybody. But big up to the people that have that self reflection period and really look
I
into
think it's
themselves.
it's also like it's not supposed to be easy to do your own thing in art. It's like pretty miserable sometimes because like often you're going against the mold. What you're doing is literally different than what other people are doing, so people have a hard time relating to it at first. And then inevitably people
Yeah,
they get it. They see that what you're doing is actually like fire because it's different. But like when people encounter different
yeah,
at first, they don't like it. There's this crazy trend in music where the first song in a new sound tends to flop, but the second song goes really hard. Like the first guy to copy the first guy, the new guy, that guy single. But the first one, he tends to have a lot harder time making it fly like that, which I think is an interesting phenomenon. So it's sometimes a little thankless to be like innovative with it, but I agree with what you're saying in terms of being able to look at yourself and because like even this interview format, like yo, we figured out how to do something that if you go watch other people's shows, they got to ask you questions. There's ways to make you answer questions without asking the questions, and that creates a cooler feel. and
exactly.
and so like we it wasn't just random. I'd been podcasting for like 6 years or some shit, doing other shit before like we fell on this, and we fought the trends. And I could, cause yo, otherwise you're just every other fucking show, and there's no reason to really follow you because younger, hotter you is gonna show up every single time. It just no matter how it works, there's always younger, hotter you. So if you want to stand the test of
Exactly.
time, you almost have to come up with a way to provide value. Like this whole show is meant to be like, I mean, it's called Bridge the Gap because we trying to bridge the gap of cultures and shit, but also like, yo, maybe somebody's right now sitting there with a Nintendo DSi and is like, say word. And then they make a little song and it is, like what I'm saying? Like people have these moments where somebody's looking at their kid now playing video games and are like, maybe they'll make music because of this. That fucking Don TheKing guy did. So it's like there's value in extracting
Exactly.
these like toolkits from people's lives. And then if you're wise about the art game, you leverage all the toolkits at your disposal. So I wanted to learn more about being a better artist. What's the best way? Just fucking ask artists questions and shit. You get a lot of information. People tell me what to Google all the time on this show. Go on.
Yeah. And the thing about it too, when it came for me, when it came, for me, doing my own thing, for the longest while, I'm a YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is Don TheKing Beats too. That's my YouTube channel. I remember where my YouTube channel is concerned for the longest while, I'll be mostly, doing type beats and stuff. Then as the years go on as doing type beats, I would see there is these type beats that's getting popular. So I wouldn't, try and make type beats based on the type beats that's famous. I'll basically, do type beats on the certain kind of artist who sounded personally rock with, like, from back then. I'll basically, do like, from 2017, I'll mostly, you do Young Dolph, you Young Dolph, Gucci Mane type beats. Then 2018, 2019, I'll do a Playboy Cardi, Mexico Joe type beats. Then, 2020, 2021, I'll mostly, do Little Dirk and Little Baby type beats. But the thing about that is, I'll notice that for you to be popping on YouTuber type beats is concerned, you always have to, make the beats that is popular, make the type beats that people are searching for. And if you don't, conform yourself to a certain kind of sound, no one's gonna rock you. And, at the same time, I kind of got tired. So at the same time, I step away from doing type beats. And you could check out my YouTube channel too. The last time I pulled a type beat was basically like a year ago. So basically, the thing I mostly do right now, I have a beat page or mostly upload my beats that I feel like making. Like for example, I tell you how much I like that big end 2-pack stuff. So I mostly make like smooth boom bap type beat because that's a sound I'm familiar with. That's the kind of sound I like. And it felt refreshing making a beat that a lot of people ain't, hell bent on looking for. And that felt, kind of refreshing too. And even though I haven't uploaded, on YouTube in so long, it felt refreshing. Cause at the same time, when I make them kind of little Dirk, little baby kind of beats, I'll basically do a hashtag research, make certain kind of tags for this video, certain kind of tags for that
Yo,
video.
tell the
After
people
ton of my
about your.
videos turned away.
Describe a bit about the hashtag research process you do, because a lot of people don't really know what that means.
Okay, let me explain it like this. I'm gonna talk about, for producers too, whenever you're making like this is free game, this is like free game. This is like, advice for a lot of Montreal producers, whenever you're like, making tight beats and stuff, too, let's say for example, you're making Little Dirk, little baby type beat. You have to do like, SEO keyword research. So it's
Tell
basically like,
them.
there's
No, I'm
there's
excited.
basically
This is fun.
websites. I forgot the name of the website, but there's some out there where you could basically type little baby type beats, little baby, like for example little baby type beats, and you click search. Then you basically see a whole bunch of results of possible keywords of, like for example, free little baby type beat 2023, little baby little Dirk, little baby Gunna type beat. You just basically copy paste that, you put that in the description too. And also too, there is software called TubeBuddy and vidIQ. You have,
Mm.
stuff with TubeBuddy and vidIQ, where basically install as an extension on your like, YouTube account and stuff. So as you're typing the tags too, you can like, search which tags to use. Then you basically like, you see like which tag is good. Like if it's in the green, then it's good to use. It's good to use. Not much people is using it. If it's in the yellow, yeah, some people that's using it and some people that's not. And if it's in the red, do not use that kind of stuff because too many people's using that. So you're building knowledge of what good tags to use and what good tags not to use. So basically, make them more organized and don't use the same tags in every single beat. Try changing up your hashtags, not hashtag. Try changing up your tags, and like every single beat, like slightly changing up a bit. And not only you put the tags in the tag section as you're uploading your beat to YouTube, you want to paste that in the description of the video at the bottom of the description. So
That's
basically,
actually
as you
a
have
hot
it there,
tip. I'm not even gonna lie. I never thought to do that, but as you're describing it, I'm like, say word. They do read the description now more than they read the keywords, which is a fact.
well, they don't read. Well, people, when you put that in
I'm
a
gonna
lot of
say
videos, you
they. I
see,
mean the algorithm.
true,
Like
true, true, yeah.
the algorithm reads
I'm
the
put
description and weights it heavier than keywords right now. YouTube even told us keywords is like, eh. But you're saying put it in. I'm like, yo, you're right, because that makes a difference. That's a really good tip. Like
And
legit.
plus two, the reason why that's good too is because not only YouTube bring it out there, but let's say for example, you're behind the gap, interview for interview, for example, for example, like I remember there was this one interview you did with Deuce God. Let's say that interview, for example, people would type, behind the gap T you type on behind the gap Deuce God. But the way that people, because we want to make it easier to find. So you put in a description, for example, behind the gap TV, like say, Holden Stephan Roy, for example. So you put behind the gap TV, Holden Stephan Roy, Deuce God. So in case people not don't know the exact keywords, they'll
He's
basically,
not even lying.
type that out and people type that up and your video pops up just because of that keyword they put in the description. Because whenever you type something on YouTube, like a certain keyword, for example, most definitely the reason why YouTube pull that up is because that keyword is emphasized in the description of the video.
Right. Also, the title, like and if you want like an extra tip on YouTube for those of you doing conversational shit, say the keyword like 3 times in the first 90 seconds of your video, and if you now listen to your YouTubers, you're gonna hear it every fucking video, but they always keyword stuff. Like the first 2 to 3 minutes is just pure keyword stuffing. Welcome to the news. Today we're going to watch Fallout 76 updates. And in today's video, with all the Fallout 76 updates, and like they'll plug it like that over, and because it's now capable of in real time scanning every word of a 3 hour video and know exactly like what it is. It's crazy shit how good it's gotten at it. So like, and then that means also like put it on screen. So let's say like maybe not like fully, but like have your main keyword a little bit be on screen in some way. So like it's super interesting to have like how like SEO evolves, and then it like changes slightly for every platform, but the same principles apply. Even on TikTok now, they're like don't put hashtags as much, but make your description longer and stuff it with keywords.
Facts. And the thing about it too, there's two more things. There's two more things I'm gonna say where this is concerned. Another two more sets of advice. One for producer, one for artist. One for producer. Not only you want to make good tags in the description, good tags. Because usually when you put the tags in the tag section, there's like a little circle that'll let you know when you're in the green. Like for example, show percentage. Like for example, 42 out of 50. If you're in the yellow or in the green and you type it out, it's basically on the right tracks. The thing that make it go in the yellow and the green is not only if the tag is written good, the tags are in the description, but mostly if the title is titled good for the beats. So you gotta, do some research, how to title a beat. Because the title of the beat counts too, Like for example, you base because the things that's popular on YouTube is free type beats. So basically, like for example, free little baby gonna type beat 2020, free little baby gonna type beat, 2023, or basic, put the title after the free. As times go on, it changes over. And so what worked for you, this year where doing this is concerned, it may not necessarily work for you next year. So I recommend, for producers to do the research, and for artists too, up and coming artists too, put tags in the description too. The thing they a lot of artists are sleeping on too, they should put, snippets of, the lyrics inside the tags too. So they basically should, like for example, Don TheKing, Don TheKing, like for example, I'm doing this for you. Like for example, the name of the song is, Hype, and my lyric is I'm doing this. A lot of people may not know the song is called Hype, but they'll know the lyrics, I'm doing this. So I would, try to put like, Don TheKing, I'm doing this. So if people, type my name and that's a pop up. So in case the song blow up and get famous and they may not know the name, they know that lyrics. So when they type it up, I recommend it to more people. And that's a lot of artists sleep on. They should add tags to it themselves. They just got to do research. And as an artist, it's not easy, finding good tags too, because, there's a lot of, it's not easy finding good tags too. So, just common sense thing. Put like, your name, put the lyrics and your name too. Put, in Montreal rap songs and all that too. Just relevant stuff around your music is concerned.
Yeah, I usually go with shit too, like Montreal Underground. Like tell people you're underground, tell people you're unsigned, tell people all this in your tags, cause yo, people, especially on Instagram, Like I learned a lot about Instagram is that you can search for people via hashtags. Like if you want a Montreal producer, search hashtag Montreal producer and watch. You'll find like half the producers in the city on Instagram like that. And I started like doing
Gem.
that. And then so that way you put Montreal unsigned artist, Montreal this, Montreal. So like you got to think strategically. Like I'm not even gonna lie, I haven't really, I haven't sat there and really done this in a while. So I'm just putting a lot of different shits for hashtags. Like my man's is experimenting with like what happens if you put hashtag ADHD, hashtag this. So you know we're playing around with baiting it, but really like if you can figure out what people are gonna actually search for on hashtags, and in the same way, if you can find like I don't know, let's say Montreal Rappers has 50,000 and then Montreal Rapper has like a different amount. Like target the ones that have less people on it. You'll actually start to show up in relevant content on these hashtags when people show up. Yeah, go on.
And just to add on more what you said, that's very good. That's very good, gem and game right there too. You gotta, put yourself in the you gotta put yourself in like, your audience position. Because you gotta put yourself in an audience position where you gotta figure out how is people gonna find my content? Just what is people gonna how is people gonna find my content? So gotta do a better hashtag research. A lot of mistake people make is that, and I make the same mistake myself too, where adding hashtag where they think just because they have millions of people, lots of people, they think that's gonna get them more attention. But in reality, it's gonna get more over. It's gonna get pushed at the bottom because always more posts being added daily, like every few seconds. So you gotta go with the one with the less volume because chances are people is mostly looking at those hashtags. So as a result, people end up, your video end up being brought to more people that way compared to had a whole bunch of hashtags with millions of people, millions of views looking at it. So you just got to be strategic and put yourself in an audience position.
Also, hashtag yourself. I feel like silly because if I had hashtagged myself, just Holden Stephan Roy on like every post I'd made from all my accounts, I'd probably have like five, 600 posts right now on that hashtag. Then when people search and see your name with that many posts, now it's not a crazy number, but it's a crazy number for an independent artist, right? Because like in the
Yeah.
very lowest tiers, like people be having 17 hashtags on there, and it's all of them. But if you're able to generate people hashtagging your name and get people to tag you and hashtag your name so it comes from different accounts now, it creates attraction so that instead of like it creates it creates exposure for you because your hashtag now shows up in the search quicker. Like I'd rather a hashtag of me show up quicker than my account, so people are like, "What the fuck?" And then they see all that wide array of shit, and then go find my account from that point. So like these are the kinds of things
At the
I'm looking
same
into building. Yeah, go on.
and at the same time too, where that's concerned, at the same time, don't do research too at the same time, and in case you're wondering where I start, there's YouTube tutorials. Like YouTube is informative more than it has been like 10, 15 years ago. Because there used to be a time back then where people before me would be doing this kind of thing I'm doing, but back then they didn't have, like back in 2010, had to like figure that stuff out for themselves. There wasn't YouTube videos back then where people just give the game for free. Back then, people have to like pay for like handbooks and stuff just to get the gem and information. So nowadays too, there's so much resourceful information at your disposal. You just gotta know what you just gotta what to look for. You just gotta search deep for it, and don't look for the videos with the big views, because the videos of the tutorials of the big views aren't helpful at all. They're not. It's always the videos with the less views and the big views that are extremely helpful because you're in the same position you in. So when you find someone else who's in the same position like you giving gems, they're more realistic. They're more, real compared to the ones with the millions of views and stuff.
Yeah, you're
Because
making
just gonna
facts there.
because it's just going to give the information that is more trendy. They're going to give a lot of stuff out because they feel, okay, I made it, I'm super famous now. I gotta try, I gotta put on the game, I gotta charge, I gotta charge for that, for people to know that information. So a big shout out to the people that is in the same position that we're in, that don't hold the game, that give the game for free. And there's people that they should always look information from, than the people who's money hungry, and the
Mm.
people just greedy, don't keep that and keep all that knowledge to themselves, because the knowledge must spread.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, this is an interesting side point because personally, I want to sell courses, but I also want to give away all the content in the courses for free, and I think you can do both. Because
Exactly, you got to monetize.
so you do, and what I realized is like, because like end of the day, at a certain point, you're like, I would like to get paid to do this, so I could just keep doing this and not have to go to work. Right. That is a certain like at a certain point, day job life is what it is. Right. Um, and you kind of like, how can I make money off this? So I feel weird about when people have knowledge and they don't share it, right, at all. But then you have guys like Ty Lopez, who strangely enough shares all of his knowledge publicly on podcasts and then charges people for the exact same knowledge. So
Yeah.
I look at it like, if I'm willing to give away all of my knowledge for free publicly and people still want to pay me for exactly the same knowledge I just gave away publicly, I'm very comfortable with that. So like I'm gonna write courses, then I'm going to package the courses one way for sale, but then I'm gonna make YouTube videos where I chop it up and basically say the same shit there, and then I'm gonna chop it up even more for TikTok. And maybe it's out of order or a little bit more inconvenient to watch it for free, but it's all gonna be there, and then I'm just gonna make it look all fancy for the paid version. And all that you're getting is different production values, but it's the same core content. And you know what's crazy? Motherfuckers are gonna watch the free shit and then pay for the fucking shit, and it's the exact same bullshit at the end of the day.
And exactly at the same time too, in everything you do, and compensation got to be the number one key. But you can't make your whole world be based on money and compensation, because people gonna see right through that. People gonna see right through that stuff. So as you're giving away, free game, you got to find a way to monetize, off that game too. So you can basically, give like the majority of free game out there, but the rest of the game, you just gotta put a price tag on that.
Mm.
Like Busy Works, like for example, Busy Works Beats is concerned. Busy Works, if you look at his YouTube channel, it's just nothing but free game is given. But if you wanna, let's find out more information on how to become a better producer, you gotta pay for like his courses, like his masterclass and all that too. And with people like that, they just trying to find a way, monetize off of the free game to give them. Because keep in mind, they don't have to give that game, They can keep that game to themselves and let people struggle and fight out for themselves. But, they want to make it easier because they put themselves, in that producer's position. Because you got to put yourself in the position, like, what happened if you're in that position? You got to think, like, you got to think about how would you feel if someone gave you that kind of game for free. So you're gonna, emphasize, put yourself in other people's shoe instead of thinking about yourself and think about how can I make a quick buck off of these people curiosity. You got to put yourself in them people's shoes. So big up to all the people, who help out the people when they see them when they're down, and big up the people who don't just be giving description like, I'm gonna tell you how you could become a better producer. If you want to figure out how to become a better producer, hit this link below, click this link below in the advertisement below, and you go to the page, you see invoice of paying $50 just for a course. Don't big up them kind of people. Big up them kind of people, who basically help out the producers and help out other people when they see them when they're
So you know
down.
where I do think it's completely fair to charge. So I was is like, so I tell you how to do it, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it for you, like in your little world. If you want me to apply my skills to your life, and we're gonna book an hour-long session, and I hang out with you, and you tell me about whatever you're doing, and then I give you game specific to like you, that's worth money to me because I have to put an hour of my life into that shit. So once you start taking time like that, it's different. So coaching, I think, is a very valuable approach, and like, sure, you could say whatever, but like, I mean, that's what companies do. They pay you for your specialty. So if I put all that time into, so here, why you're paying me to do this as an example is because you don't want to Google for 10 hours, and I already Googled for 10 hours. So like,
Exactly.
already like with Chat GPT and shit, I was like, I'm gonna learn about Chat GPT. It's super interesting. It's changing the world. And I know that most of my friends do not want to Google. They don't want to go through ChatGPT. So if I go through the process of creating like a course for ChatGPT, cool, I'll make the course. But where I would make money is actually just hanging out with you and you tell me what you need done. And then in front of your face, I ask ChatGPT the right questions and we get shit done. Now that's not free anymore. Like, it might be free at first for my homies, but it's not really free if I don't really know you like that. Because now we're like taking time out and it's basically a job. But the course, bro, I be writing blogs and shit like, here's how to use ChatGPT. Motherfuckers don't want to read it. So if they don't want to read it and they have to come talk to me directly, that's when I'm like, maybe this should start costing money for that kind of interactions. But I
Yeah,
always try my best to put knowledge out, even in these interviews. Like, yo, if you really want to know most of the shit I know, go watch all the interviews I've done because 80% of my music game knowledge comes from these interviews lately. It's just I talk to people who are more successful than me. They tell me all their game. I go learn about it, etc. Repeat. Even this, like, hashtag research, how to fucking leverage tools at your disposal, how to, like, all of this shit's game. But people don't want to watch the interviews necessarily. They want to come holler at me
exactly.
to get the bullet point version. Now I'm okay with charging if you're lazy about it. But, like, if you're willing to go through the content, like, and actually explore shit, like, I made a video once just for, like, explaining how to deal with latency issues when you're recording on OBS because at the time it was new and COVID had kicked in and nobody knew how to rap on beat. I couldn't find a video, so I made that video once, and it really helped some people. I'm cool giving away knowledge, but if you want me to do it on your computer, it's different. Anyway, you're
At the
muted.
same time,
You're
yeah,
going.
sorry. And at the same time too, we need more, people like you in the city doing what you're doing, because I seen some of your interviews, before in the past before, and always spreading some game, always, spreading some knowledge, always spreading some game, like you mentioned before. These ain't typical kind of interviews, and I'm gonna say this for a fact. I've seen a lot of interview sessions that is conducted from a lot of people in the city, and nothing don't and not and barely any of them come close to like this kind of platform too, because you're really trying to understand the artist and make people understand more about the artist, so appreciate what you're doing. And if we had more people like you in the city doing what you're doing, not only for
Just
people but
to give
for them.
credit, there is more people doing it, thankfully, just not as many. But like,
Yeah,
just shout out like Hustle Podcast as an example. They really be doing their shit, and I just want to give some love, for where it's
exactly.
due. Like, I
and
think.
if you had
So go on, yeah.
And if you had, more people like, doing what you're doing, for underground, because keep in mind, you don't, and I know for a fact that, you don't have to do this for upcoming artists, but you still do, still, try to, listen to artists and stuff, and interested in not only knowing about the artist, but, you're also thinking too, that people also want to know about this artist too. So also, putting artists out there. And if you had, more people like this kind of podcast, doing what you're doing, the Montreal music scene, specifically the English music scene, be so up right now.
But just to that point, I think what you're doing with the remixes kind of plays a very similar role, right? Like, actually seeing somebody Don King or Don TheKing remixed fucking Nate Husser's this song or puts, and it's always these Montreal people. And
Yeah,
while usually it is the bigger names, like, that, like, we know, but like, it's just always Montreal. Like, yo, these Montrealers are so hot that Don TheKing saying fuck everyone else, I'm remixing these guys. I don't know what the reach is like. I don't know how many people see it, but I saw it and I caught my eye and I listened to a few of them and I'm like, yo, this is interesting. Because, like, if you think back to, like, New York in the 90s, you learn a lot about mixtape culture, which is a part of hip hop that is wildly not documented because it was super in the streets and it was super physical products. So, like, unless somebody actually kept that disc, uploaded it to YouTube, like, there's just a lot of shit that gets, like, lost to time, you know? And because of that, we don't know about how many people were actually doing what you're doing now back then and how much reach it did to help these local artists, how much it did to boost the guys that turned out to be the people that we praise in Montreal when we think about the golden era and shit. So like there's this whole other ecosystem of DJs and producers kind of remixing and building content around the local scene to build hype in it. And like as much as I do the interviews, like music's super a sound thing. So if more people was doing what you're doing, yo, it would go a lot quicker, I think. And then people will come
That's
watch the interview because then they're more curious.
And the reason why, and I'm gonna tell you, where Spaceville Hi-Fi is concerned, I'm gonna, tell you the reason why I do it and the inspiration behind it. But first, I'm gonna mention the reason why I do it. For the past couple of years, I would notice because be hip to the music scene and stuff. But there's one thing I noticed too, there are some things as like holding back the English music scene. One of the things that's holding back the English music scene in Quebec is basically the language barrier. And what they basically mean that because Quebec is mostly a French province, so the Quebec government is going to mostly support French stuff. But as for the English artists and stuff, the English artists in Montreal have to work 10 times more hard than the average artist because the thing a lot of English Montreal artists don't, and I understood this from like when I was a teenager up to now. So the thing about it too, where French artists is concerned, saying it's a French province, by default, the French artist is naturally gonna, prosper, is naturally gonna be pushed because, Quebec is basically like a French province in itself. But as for the English artists, keep in mind where Quebec is concerned, there's a lot of discrimination that the Anglophone community face. So, and the people in that community that face the most English artists. So, in order for an English artist to succeed, they would have to do these three things. They'll basically either, pay big bucks of money, pay big bucks of money, to succeed. They would have to, go towards another country, go beyond Quebec. And I don't mean going to Toronto.
Which I'm
I
just gonna
mean
put it
going,
out there. You just also said you need big bucks of money, even
yeah,
for when, because when you're
you
going
need
to
it.
another place, like I've talked to some people, and like part of my plans now is to stack up and try out LA for a minute when I can get there. Bro, you need like 20, 30 grand on deck, Canadian, to
Yeah,
like survive for like 4 or 5 months in another country with no job.
yeah. And the thing about it too, you'd have to, and in order for another reason, I talk about you need big bucks of money, because because where the French artist is concerned, you don't have to worry about paying that much big bucks of money because the French music scene is naturally back and support. You don't have to worry about dishing up money they don't have. Number two, in order for an English artist to succeed in Montreal, Quebec, they would have to, make a name for themselves outside the province. And I don't mean make a name for themselves in Toronto, because a lot of people think Toronto's Los Angeles. I mean, make a name for yourself beyond the country. Number
Yo,
three,
he's spitting facts, bro. He's spitting facts.
number three, a way that an English artist have to succeed is that they would have connections. They basically have to know people that know people. So as a result, where the English artist is concerned, the odds are stacked against English artists because if you look at French artists, and I don't got nothing against the French music scene because there's some French music I listen to that come from the scene where I don't understand what they're saying. I'm rocking the vibe. I know they're saying some real stuff, but at the same time, anybody could see this. A lot of French artists are pop in the city. A lot of them have like 100,000 views, close to a million views. And compare that to the English artists, they're barely hitting 1,000. Some of them be lucky if they hit like 50,000. A good example.
I, I promise you, most of us they hit 50,000 paid.
Mm-hmm. And
Most of
a,
us.
and the thing about it too, for example, a couple of years back in 2021, there was like the Montreality cipher. I don't know if you've seen it, but there was like the
Yo,
Montreality
I missed
cipher.
that. I really
There's like
didn't
the
even know that. Go on.
Yeah, there's like the Montreality cipher where there's like the French artist is performing, and if you look at it right now, it's like 80,000 views where that's concerned. But if you compare that to like the English version, where Montreal artists such as K Bands, Slim, Kid Riz, if you compare it to that, they have like 10,000 views. So you can really see the big difference where views is concerned, because or like I said, as the French province is concerned, so to mostly be like, it's not, for the French arts concerned, they naturally get pushed by default. There's basically outlets for for French artists to flourish and get big. But as for English artists in the music scene is concerned, there's not enough outlets. If you look at these Montreal promo pages concerned, you mostly see a lot of the artists that's being promoted as mostly French artists compared to English artists. Like when you do, like, for example, top 10 music videos that dropped this week, it's like top 20 music videos. They would have like 15, French artists that, of new songs they just dropped, and like five songs that English artists just dropped. And you could really see that, the bias that's concerned, because there's a lot of English artists, that's
So
dropping a lot.
just to
Hello?
like, because you're saying some wildly great shit. I love what you're saying. One thing to keep in mind is only 12.5% of Quebec is English.
Yeah,
So it's like,
exactly.
so like at a ratio level, let's say there's probably like, I'm ballparking 2,000 English rappers. There's probably like 15,000 French rappers. Cause like I talk to a
Exactly.
lot of French rappers, and bro, they do not. They're like, yeah, I don't know what y'all English people be thinking, but like it sucks being a French rapper too. like, um,
Exactly.
so if you're one of the ones like, so I saw a really interesting post that talked about the Quebec and Canadian music scene versus other places. So because of the grant system, it's very socialist, which kind of means the government chooses who wins which. With regards to what you're saying, yo, good luck being an English white dude getting a grant. Like, good fucking luck. You can, it does happen, but it's almost like winning the lottery. Um,
Yeah.
but if you're French and you go for grants, it's completely different. You're a lot more likely to get a grant. And that's just the way it works here. I know everyone is like, however, like there's ways to get grants, but yo, it's really challenging to rely on it as an anglophone in Quebec, which makes sense. And then when you're playing Factor in Canada, you're up against the whole country, and you got to make pop music and shit. So it's like, well, not pop music, but like it's probably like you're letting the government decide ultimately what you're making. Whereas if you look at the American music scene, it's purely capitalistic. As in, like, yo, my man's dropped a project. They made $100 fucking packages, right? They sold the CD with a bandana and a lighter and a this and a that. It was a whole bunch of shit for 100 USD a pop, and then they made back their money. And the way music works there, it's straight like that. Like, you make money however you make your money, and then you invest in your career, and the people who want it the most get it. And even to get a label, you still have to do fire enough things to like attract the label people and shit, right? It's not just like given to you. These guys worked hard. And then that comes from the lack of socialism. Like in America, if you're poor, you're poor. You don't eat. Like it's not the same. Like, yeah, there's food stamps and shit, but it's not like it is here where you get welfare and a bunch of other social services and shit. Like, we have a much simpler time. So when you look at the socialism in the music scene, I feel like it just doesn't create the kind of innovative hustle that allows the Anglophone community to be like real with their shit. Like, if we treated it all like businesses and ignored the grant system entirely, like I've just ignored grants. Like, I'm like, fuck it, I'm not getting a grant. How can I build a business? And then you start figuring out, how can I make connections in other places? How can I build? How can I do all this? You just treat it like I don't need the government to win. All of a sudden you can make bigger moves. But then I just feel like there's something about Quebec where people kind of like the handouts, and everybody's just reliant on these handouts. And then you like look up grants and you're like, man, you could just make that money in a year. Like, but people don't really want to hustle like that. Like I was just in New York City, bro. Like, there's a hustle in New York City. It costs so much money to live there. You just can't afford to be lazy, and that
Exactly.
translates to everything. I don't know.
And exactly, that is, and that is facts too, because like I was mentioned, where the English, music scene is concerned. If you look at your phone right now, you see like a Montreal promo page. Most likely, 9 times out of 10, you mostly see the French music scene mostly promoted than the English music scene. So as a result, it makes it harder for English artists to push. And the thing about it, there's other factors they got to consider too, which is holding back the Montreal, the English Montreal music scene is concerned. Not only is them three things that I just listed twisted. But there's other things too. You have some people that basically in their mind thinking that, that they already made it, that they're like, in Drake's position when they basically didn't even do nothing or put in much work yet. A lot of people, have like, cocky mentality thinking that, yeah, I'm the biggest in the city, I'm the hottest in the city. Like, bro, put in more work. You see yourself so much farther if you basically, put in the work. And too many people in the city, a lot of people in the city, is too comfortable. A lot of people, like you mentioned before, a lot of people is dependent. A lot of people just too comfortable. A lot of people just, expecting a handout. Like in this life too, nobody's gonna give you a handout. You gotta, get on your own. And
Facts.
another thing that's holding back the English scene in Montreal too. You have a lot of hatred. You have so many bad-minded, bad-hearted people that do not want to see you succeed. They want to see you at the bottom. And the moment that get to a certain spot, all of a sudden, that's when they want to hate you. Like that's the exact same thing,
I
that
think
killed
that
off
that one part is that's art. That's every city. That part.
yeah. Exactly. But in Montreal compared to Toronto, like if you compare to, if yeah, that's in every city, but it's a real like a disease in Montreal where it's like so
Uh,
much
I
hatred
don't know, man.
and
So that Montreal problem shit, bro. I've now talked to people in 10 to 15 cities. It's the independent music scene problem,
yeah,
because, and here's my theory: most people who pursue art past a certain age are probably on a spectrum, on some real shit. Like they're probably a little autistic, a little borderline, a little something to pursue art so seriously past this. And that's just anecdote. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure if you really run the analysis, you'll see it. So you have a bunch of people who maybe aren't the most emotionally stable human beings, because arts and emotionally stable are usually not the best of friends. Um, and you have like only like 20 to 30 real slots in any fucking music scene. Like every other slot doesn't count. Like there's the people who get the festival bookings and you can see them. SLM's one. Um, fucking what's his name? Mr. Severe just did Metro Metro with fucking the Astro Collectives, fucking Joe Dolo and them. They're fire. You start to see Husser, he clearly got his shit. Shabo and the Craven squad have their corner. And I know Craven and them are big because, like, when I go to other cities, people tell me about Craven and them. So it's like there's only so many slots that will ever take up the top 10 to 15 blog articles, etc. And there's thousands of us competing for those slots, and that's every single city has the same problem, and that's every single art field, every single genre of music. And I think as time goes on, people get kind of jaded and they want it more and they want it more, but so and so shows up and does well. Like people see me doing my thing, but they look over how long I've been doing my thing. They just see me doing my thing. They don't actually look at, like, we've put out like 1,500 fucking YouTube videos. Okay, like put out 1,500 YouTube videos that are as long as the ones I put out. I promise you'll have results like me. And that's on top of music, on top of having a job, and on top of all this other shit where I learned and learned. You go live a life like that, you get results. But a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes or what goes into it, because usually when you really on your hustle, it's not that you're gatekeeping. You're just like, bro, I don't remember half the shit I do. I just don't remember. That's part of why I started a blog, is because I can't remember last week. You're just so fucking doing shit. And
yeah.
then people don't really relate to that life, right? Like they don't relate to it. So they just want the results. They show up at the bars and then we all get booked at the same show. So everyone thinks we're all equals.
Yeah. And the thing about it, that's a fact. That's a fact right there too. That's true right there. And the thing, like I was mentioning, where the hate is concerned too, the Montreal music scene, would be so far ahead had not been for hate. Like you remember the artist too, Bad News Brown too. Bad News Brown was, was blown up, was blown up, was one of the biggest artists in the city, blown up during this time too. And the moment that he was about to, reach a top, reach up a stardom, died at the hand of bad-hearted people, because some people just feel that he don't deserve the position that they have. So that's the kind of mentality that's holding a lot of people back.
I can't really speak too much on that because I know a lot about that. it is a little more complicated than what you're describing. There is a whole
Yeah,
other side to life that was there. But yes, this type of that whole era of hip hop in Montreal is a strange time. Um, there was a lot of talent and a lot of things going on, but unfortunately, there was also a lot of street activities taking place that a lot of people weren't aware of, and so
yeah,
it's not my place to speak on. But there is just a bit more to it than that, which is I think different than nowadays. Nowadays, it's a little bit like people are treating it not like it's not the same environment as I guess what I'm saying. I'm trying to be mad delicate here.
yeah. Chill, good point. So I basically, talk about the things that's like, affecting the English music scene. Now, as you have all that in mind, I'm gonna, talk about, the influence of the reason why I made Spaceville Hi-Fi. But the reason why I made Spaceville Hi-Fi, is because I want to like, make like a platform where English Montreal artists, could have an outlet, so they could like, get big, so they could, reach success without having to worry about dishing out the big funds. So they don't have to worry about, going to like a whole nother country. Because some people, probably don't feel like going to another country, and some people probably don't
No,
even
some
don't even
people
have that much connections.
it's not even like that. Some people on some real shit literally can't cross the border. They just
Exactly.
can't cross the border. Y'all can interpolate what you want from that, but I've done enough interviews to know that based on life choices people make, you sometimes hit a point where your career is going like this and then you just can't cross the border and it creates a real complication for a lot of people.
Exactly. So where this platform Spaceville Hi-Fi is concerned, I want to basically, make an outlet for Montreal artists, specifically artists within the Montreal music scene that feel they're being slept on, so they could just, get on this sound system. So basically they could be pushed. Because the reason why I made Spaceville Hi-Fi, the name Spaceville in general is basically like, like a city where people's mind is like, taken off the stress, people minds taken off the stress, very, good, very bright cedar people, just relax. And the way it came up with Spaceville Hi-Fi, I'm making a song called Space Bit, where the sound space bit is basically like a blend of reggae music and dub with chip tune and synth wave. So basically, I'll basically, blend all those together to make my own sound. So basically, and I've been doing this for like 2 years, been building this craft of space bit for like, 2 years. So I was making this. I'm like, man, it would be sick if I had some, dope Montreal artists to hop on this. But like, how am I gonna get Montreal artists hop on this? So for a while, I had the idea of Spaceville Hi-Fi from like 2022, but I decided, until I think of a strategy, I'm not gonna launch this. So basically, I remember one day too, it was like last summer, basically, that Showbiz was rapping on, that you heard
Mm.
Showbiz rapping on the footsteps. Well,
Right.
basically, originally, originally I sent that, to Deuce God of, Clan ENT. And just to hear how he would sound on it. Just to hear how he would, sound on the beat, if he would sound good on the beat. So I sent it over to him. He ended up recording over it. Deuce God was like the first voice on the footsteps space, them not only that too, on the whole space, on a space bit beat in general. So her Deuce God, recorded over the beat, and here I'm saying in the beginning, yes, Don, and I'm jamming with it. I'm like, yes, it sounds nice, but I didn't do nothing when it comes trying to figure out how I'm gonna push this. So fast forward, I think you're aware that Nate Husser was doing like a did it before challenge, where he was doing like a did it before challenge, where you invite DJs and producers to make the like best remixes of his song.
Right.
So I remember that the moment he came across this challenge, I'm like, okay, first thing I'm doing, I'm gonna make like a brand new space dim. And if you don't know what a space dim is, it's like a space bit rhythm. RIDIM space bit rhythm, just space them in one. So the thing I would do, I'm in my mind, I'm planning, I'm gonna make a brand new space bit beat. But I was busy, with stuff, schoolwork and stuff. So, didn't have time to do it. Then fast forward, end up being the last day, the final day, to get your submissions in. So, oh man, how am I gonna, and do this remix. If I how am I gonna have time to make this beat and do the remix? And I'm come up with an idea. Wait a minute, that beat that I had Deuce got hop on, how about I use that exact same beat and remix Nate Hustler's vocals over it? So as a result, I posted that. I did that remix, posted that, and I started doing one. And they come up with the idea that, wait a minute, how about I basically remix Montreal artists over the exact same beat, and just post it, then do another set of Montreal artists over an English Montreal artists over another beat. Then as I started doing that, I come up with the idea for Spaceville Hi-Fi. We're like, okay, that's just what Spaceville gonna be about. I'll basically, listen to English Montreal artists, from the music scene, here for rock the music, I would hit up the artist and ask if it'd be okay if I would do these kind of remixes. Then most times they would agree. So basically, I select the vocals, then I'll basically, put it over the new space bit rhythm. Then I'll put them all together, make it a mixtape. Then I'll basically, do a DJ mix of it. And the way I do this DJ mix of it, I'm gonna tell you my influence where Spaceville Hi-Fi is concerned. My main influence when I do Spaceville Hi-Fi is basically, to Jamaican, to like, Jamaican culture. Now the
Right.
thing where Jamaican culture music is concerned, they're basically be like artists that basically hop on one reggae beat, or that basically be like a reggae instrumental, where I have a set of reggae artists that make their own songs over on a reggae rhythm, because that's a rhythm. Reggae rhythms like reggae instrumental. So I have a set of artists that record their tunes over one reggae instrumental. Then I have another set that record another reggae instrumental, and that's basically how what the backbone of reggae music is about. Because basically like reggae rhythms that go back to like the late 1960s that people are still hopping on to this day. So that's the kind of thing I was trying to emulate as I was doing Spaceville Hi-Fi with Space Bits concerned, where I remix multiple artists and have them on one set of beat, then upload it and do it this for the exact same thing as doing that as I'm building a music scene. And the main influence for Spaceville Hi-Fi is concerned is Jamaican sound system culture. Now, our Jamaican sound system culture is a thing that was done from the late 1950s to the early 1960s in Jamaica, basically, where the radio would have mostly played the new reggae music. So the thing a lot of reggae artists would do is that they basically hop on sound systems. Where a sound system in Jamaica is like a group of MCs. Well, in Jamaica, a group of DJs, because in Jamaica, have like the DJs that are the MC, not a disc jockey, DJs that are the MC. Then you would have the sound selector who would be the one that will like, play the music, which is basically a modern sense as a disc jockey. So basically, put these big sound systems speaker together, tie them all up together at like a specific venue, at a specific dance hall. So they'll play like, R&B music. They basically play like American R&B music, like, Marvin Gaye, Marvin Gaye, Benny King, and they basically have everybody in the dance hall ballroom just dancing, skanking and skanking to the music, and skanking is basically like a form of dancing to ska music, which is basically like like the fast-paced version of reggae music in the 60s, which basically had a heavy influence of American R&B. Now, the thing where a lot of Jamaican sound system is concerned too, they'll basically play it and you have the audience, giving forward, which is what a forward is basically, crowd reaction. So to basically play the music and have the crowd hype to it. And during those times, I was like a radio station. That was basically like a radio station for a lot of upcoming Jamaican artists. So for Jamaican artists want a chance of success, they basically have to hop on a sound system, and has sound system culture involved in Jamaica. The music evolved in Jamaica, like one from ska music to rock steady, which is ska slow down, to reggae music, to dancehall. So the thing where sound system culture has evolved is concerned is that they mostly do like sound clashes, where have like another sound system go against another sound system, where they basically fight it out of who play the best music. and who gets the best crowd reaction wins. Kind of like versus what Swiss Beats is doing with
Right.
Timbaland, because basically like the influence for that's concerned. So as a result, you have the biggest sound system, like for example, you have Sir Coxon, Downbeat, you have like Kilimanjaro, you have Stone Love, then you have King Tubby's hometown hi-fi, because King Tubby is like an engineer who basically engineer dub music, where dub music is where basically like dubs, the influence for dubstep, basically the
Right.
father of dubstep, where basically they'll basically like manipulate a
Yo,
song, then
I'm
they'll have
really impressed with your almost encyclopedic knowledge of the history of what you're describing. Cause
yeah.
like, bro, like you really did your research. Like you're not just talking about how you're trying to make the hot new wave. You're like, let me break down to you the history of every little inspiration that brought me to this point. I know for you that might be just like what it is, but not be like you deserve extra recognition for how cool that is to be a young person proving that y'all care like that. Because that's something I think older people struggle with is that somebody your age could be this talented, have this level of historical, like we struggle with that because it makes us feel a little weak. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But like it makes me happy to see this. Like, bro, you breaking down shit where I'm gonna have to go Google after some of this, but I'm following it because like I spoke to a few Jamaicans, Duska explained the one two to me too. But like,
Yeah.
nah, really, this is crazy cool. So all of this history and culture is just like what inspired this one mixtape project.
And not mostly this mixtape project, but SpacevilleHiFi and the Space Bit sound in general. Because I'm gonna fast forward, like you have an engineer, King Tubby, where basically he like engineer dub music, where basically dub music is like a remix of a reggae song, where they basically add emphasis on the drum and the bass, and you have some instances of the vocals popping in and out. You have the melody manipulated with reverbs, delay, echoes, and filters. So you have King Tubby's Hi-Fi. You basically have the King Tubby, and you have like the King Tubby's Hi-Fi and the big DJ and a sound system named U Roy. And U Roy is basically like the influence, basically the original rapper you could say, who was an influence for hip hop music, U Roy. And there's like DJ Kool Herc, because DJ Kool Herc, the person that basically made
Right,
hip hop, basically he was born and raised in Jamaica, and
right,
he would basically attend a lot of these sound system as a kid. So he was fascinated by what he saw. With King Tubby's hi-fi, with the music playing, the speakers, people dancing to the music. Real Roy rapping over the beat. So what um Kool Herc decided to do is that when he got older, when he got a mature age, he would basically bring a sound system from Jamaica to Brooklyn, New York, and basically try
it
to
was
emulate
Bronx. It
what
was most definitely Bronx.
the Bronx. Yeah, exactly. He mostly brought a sound system from Jamaica to the Bronx, and basically do these house parties, or basically we basically play music. But the thing about it, where Jamaican sound system culture is concerned, the way that the DJs would rap in Jamaica is that they'll basically play like the B side, play like the instrumental version of the reggae song. Then they have the DJ rap over, like for example, you have the instrumental version of a Bob Marley song playing. Then you have like a DJ like Shabarangs or Buju Banton basically rapping over and give their take on the instrumental, and have everybody hype and dance and get hype to the music. Now, how that refers to DJ Kool Herc is that DJ Kool Herc is Jamaican. He absorbed this environment. So one night he decided, play funk music, play like a James Brown drum break. And he'll mostly play like, drum breaks of funk songs, like how sound selectors in Jamaica play instrumental versions of reggae songs. So what he would do is like, isolate the drum break, have the drum break, playing over and over again. And people is hyped because people never heard of music, play like this before. So at house parties, they're basically, dancing, doing break dancing. And just like how I mentioned of how Jamaican sound selectors that have DJs rap over the dub version of reggae music playing, DJ Kool Herc would basically, have like people, rapping over the drum breaks, and people get hyped, would get hyped to hear that because people never heard of, rapping like that, over a drum break before. Even though people have been rapping, before, people have been rapping, before, Kool Herc and stuff, because people have been, rapping a bit before Kool Herc. It's basically like the way Kool Herc did that, helped the start of, hip hop music in the
That's
1970s.
facts. It's also like it's like the combination of things. Like something that's always really inspired me was I read this book and How Music Works by David Byrne of the Talking Heads. Even if you don't like the Talking Heads music because it's fucking weird, this dude is a genius and like it's just such a crazy breakdown of music as theory. And it was shit like music is like designed for the environment where it's performed, right? So in the past there may have been rapping happening, but it wasn't in the context and the framing of those block parties with the loudspeakers and everything that was happening in the hip hop context that recontextualized rapping into the whole lane of hip hop in the same way that like rock music or sorry jazz music being played in the underground speakeasies or whatever created this whole vibe and environment that created the wave of jazz music of the 20s and shit, and it had to do with prohibition and it had to do with all the locations and shit where people would go to vibe out, the mix of a lot of them were on weed and coke back then, so it's all these kinds of things like blend into fucking creating the environment. So when you're describing how he's taking these influences from one place and recontextualizing them in the Bronx with this energy in this whole different environment, because trust, I'm pretty sure Jamaica and the Bronx are just like not at all the same in terms of vibe, like just different vibes. You get hip hop out of that melting pot, because you're right, rapping as a vocal, there's like even across cultures people have done rapped. It's just never been like the hip hop version of rap before.
Exactly. And even you, Roy, even because the thing got to keep in mind too, a lot of Jamaican artists like, Bob Marley, for example, a lot of them is heavily influenced by the American R&B. Because during the 50s and 60s, the music that we play in a dance hall is basically, old R&B music. Like one of like Bob Marley's biggest influence is basically Curtis Mayfield. Even his song One Love, even the song One Love was mostly inspired by Curtis Mayfield's song People Get Ready. Yeah. People Get Ready, where he was influenced by that song, is basically making his own version of that song. That's why when you search up One Love by Bob Marley, you would see People Get Ready in the sidelines because that was the influence for that song. And even U Roy mentioned, a lot of people call U Roy the first rapper. Even U Roy himself, his biggest influence was the R&B artist Louis Jordan, because basically there's like this YouTube video of like this group called the Jubilees, where basically like R&B group, and they're basically like rapping. And from the 40s is rapping. That's the same kind of thing that a lot of Jamaican DJs took influence from. So it's like, influence for influence. So when you fast forward to the Bronx now, when you fast forward to the Bronx though, with all the influence at play, you get what you call hip hop. And I did mention before of how you have sound clashes, like for example, yeah, Stone Love versus Kilimanjaro, Bass Odyssey, Sturgov, versus each other to see, who gets the best reaction. We have, DJ Kool Herc doing the exact same thing, like against DJ like African Bambaataa too, where they basically, be playing like, the best music to see who gets the most crowd reaction. Like I remember I was watching this video too of there like the sound clash going on with DJ Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa, where basically, they're like flipping through drum breaks and they're basically gonna play like good rare funk music drum breaks, and to see what will get the crowd more hyped and more excited. And Kool Herc mentioned he picked up this rare drum break that it took people 20 years to find the was the original song because it got people so hyped. What it basically did is that, you took the drum break from the song Apache and then basically, play the drum break over and over again. Because that's the sample for, jump on it, get down, jump on it, jump on it by the Sugar Hill Gang. So the moment he played that song, automatically won the sound clash. And people, got hyped and went crazy.
Yeah, there's a cool ass video on YouTube. I don't know what it's called, but if you look into the history of that sample, bro, like there's a lot of great documentation. I know you've probably seen it, but for the people watching, it's really like I think it's one of the most sampled pieces of music in history. Like it might.
Facts.
I don't know if it's number one, but it's definitely on the list.
The number one sample song is the Amen Break by the Winston Brothers.
Mm. I knew it wasn't number one, but yeah, that's the one. And then I saw there was a GoFundMe at one point to try to get them some bread because they didn't get paid off of any of that
Yeah,
shit.
because a lot of hip hop artists that sample that drum beat that basically, didn't pay the original makers of, the drum breaks. So, like was mentioned before, that's, influence of hip hop. There's basically, parallels basically compare. Because when a lot of people say that, Jamaicans have influenced hip hop music, a lot of people thinking that is Jamaican music. Like Kool Herc did not play reggae music at those block parties. The reason why we say that, Jamaican music have an impact on hip hop music is the fashion and the way that things got done, the way the music was brought to the people, as similar music was brought to the people in Jamaica. Because, in them block parties, you have Kool Herc, playing the drum break, the instrumental break of a famous funk song, and people, would dance and rap to it. Like how in Jamaica too, the sound selector play like, the dub version of a reggae song. The DJ would basically, rap over it, and basically the people, would dance. The man would grab onto a woman and basically dance with her. And the woman, will whine, which basically, a woman like, moving her body around, and a man too. So basically, he could see that, there are similarities, between that. So as I
Facts.
know, so as I know all that before, I was influenced, to do this, like, sound system or Spaceville Hifi is concerned, because the same way that there is platform made for upcoming artists in Jamaica from the get heard, I want to make a similar kind of platform for striving English artists to get heard, even though they're not getting, that much exposure from, like, the city of, Quebec and stuff. And the influences, for space bit music, the artists I look up to, the engineers I look up to as influence space bit is, King Tubby. You have Prince Jammy, Lee Scratch Perry, Scientist. So as I listened to that dub music, I was blown away. So to say, make them same kind of space bit beats, where basically make the melody, the drums, all that kind of stuff. Then, because when it comes to doing that, that's the easy part to make. That take like, an hour and a half to make. When it comes to like the dubbing part of it, that's to take a lot of time, because I have to, like, make, I have to, go into depth and, make automations of each specific sound, and route specific effects to each sound that's playing, and basically play around with it. And that would take hours, and that would, like, take hours to do. By the end of the day, I was making a new sound, because the main point of Spacebit is to basically make people feel like they're in the future, outer space, and just take people mind off the struggle and stress. Because, there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of stress going on in this world. A lot of people thinking like, how am I gonna make it? I'm so stressed out, like why? Like what kind of life is this? So I want to build something so people can, take the mind off the take the mind off the struggle. That's so when take the mind off the stress. That's so when I remix these artists, I take a very good listen to the artist's music. It's not just any English artist just put on. No, I'm just, listening to the English artist, the artist's music, and just listen to what they're saying, to hear if they're saying some, real stuff. Some stuff you can vibe to, because the vibe that they're giving off of the music is going to be reflective of the vibe that's going to be given off over this beat. And I don't want no bad vibe reflect off of the sound I'm making, because I want to push a new sound, and people mind is still inside that same sad space. I want to make, a sound that, to take people off that sad space. So, I would take a good analysis of the music that the artists listen to, and make sure it's good stuff to talking about. Because that's one thing that's holding, the music scene in Montreal back, is the whole. There's a lot of things holding back the English Montreal music scene in Montreal, because I have a lot of artists
Trust is
that's
also the French scene, but yes.
the French scene too, but specifically you mostly hear this with English scene, because, and, the Montreal music scene in general, because the main problem is holding Montreal music scene as a whole in general back is concerned. Not a lot of people want to be themselves these days. A lot of people just, want to put on a facade. You have a lot of these people that want to, act like they're hard and stuff too. And the thing about it too, not a lot of people can relate to that kind of appeal because a lot of people can't relate to fakeness. Only people can only relate, to the realness and stuff too. Because, a lot of people want to talk about, how much woman they got, how much hoes they got, how much money, how much job, and never lack and pop to my spot, bang, bang, all that stuff. And you have a lot of people that, that just doing that kind of stuff. That's the most popular thing. You have a lot of people hopping on drill beat, and a lot of people never hit a drill or hit a lick in their life. So at the same time, too, at the same time, too, a lot of people not being real with themselves, and people like me and you, we could see right through that. And if people like me and you could see through that, the audience could see through that too.
So I
So
have a
that's where it's
theory on that shit. I think it's like I'm in a place where I got to travel, right? When I was in 2013, I got to go to Pakistan for a month to go. It was with my day job. It was wild though, cause you go to somewhere like that, bro. You're not. It's nothing is the same. Like nothing, bro. I didn't see cleavage for a month. It's crazy. It's a different life. Then I went to Israel 8 months later because I'm Jewish. I went on the free birthright trip, and then, across the day I went to Toronto, had some experiences there, ended up meeting people, going to New York and shit. So like, for me, like travel, and then I read a lot of books and shit. Like this just kind of made me more interesting. And I think a lot of people's lives are kind of the same. So to me, interesting is like standing out, but standing out in a genuine way. And if a lot of people go home and play the same Call of Duty, and kind of have very similar lives, they wear the same polo. No disrespect to polo. I'm not a low life. All love to the low lives. But like a lot of people just wear polo, and then you start looking at it, and it's almost like, on the day to day, there's no adventure. There's nothing to write about. So they fall back on what's familiar and the patterns of what they hear. Whereas, like, for me, I'm just trying to, like, live my life to the fullest first so that my art can reflect what my life is like. And I don't think a lot of people prioritize, like, life. They prioritize everything else, but their lives just kind of end up being so similar. So all the music kind of sounds a little bit similar. This isn't everybody. If the shoe fits, the shoe fits, and I'm not attacking nobody. But even if you're like on one side of life and you're in the streets, however your life plays out, but like if everybody has the same like $20 an hour job, customer service, restaurant shit, and then if everybody's doing the same thing, and then all the music's gonna kind of come off in a similar wave because you're listening to the same stuff to relate. Like I don't know. To me, it's like somebody like Husser lived a life that is clearly unlike our lives. He does adventures. He's had crazy moments, and he's been on TV. He's done all this shit. So when you listen to his music and you look at the whole package of Husser, he's coming from a place of interesting. And it takes like living a more cultured life, I think. I think people need to figure out how to live differently so that their art
exact
can reflect that. That's what I'm trying to
exactly.
say.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree 100%. And like I said too, I'm not attacking anybody at all. You're not attacking anybody at all. If that's what you feel like doing, go ahead, do your thing, whatever floats your boat, do it. But eventually, there's gonna come a time, where people gonna see right through that. Because that's why, Montreal, some of the music that, that's like taken off to a Montreal, not mostly the rap, as like, R&B music. The R&B music scene is taken off big in Montreal too. Some artists like, like Xena and stuff, for example, Kayla Allen and stuff, them artists, just taken off with R&B scenes concerned, the dance salts, even the pop scene is concerned. The reason why a lot of them genres take off right before the music scene in Montreal is concerned. I'm not saying every single Montreal artist do it, Montreal rapper do this, but the reason why those genre of music take off faster than the hip hop music in Montreal is because them artists and them R&B, the dance hall, the pop music, they're being real for themselves. They're being real, and they're basically speaking stuff that people could relate to
Yo,
and
there's
identify
also,
with.
I gotta add one more thing to that shit because I've been thinking a lot about parties and stuff, right? Like, so like this Saturday, Daddy Macer and a couple other dudes, Red Dread, are gonna be doing this like loft party at Odyssey on Saint Laurent. I think it's free entry, and yo, I guarantee you, there's gonna be women there, And I guarantee it's going to be positive vibes because they're going to be playing the hits of reggae and dancehall and shit. And they're not going to be playing rap, rap. They're going to be playing fun shit that people know the words to, sing-alongy crap. You know, I don't even know reggae like that, but now I know these songs because I keep going to these parties and I keep hearing the songs and I'm singing along to shit. I couldn't even do it right now, but when this song come on, and it's these vibes that get curated by these DJs. And what I noticed, R&B singers can get that reaction from a crowd. Rock singers can get that from a crowd and shit. Like, people pull them in. People want to dance. They get entranced. But, like, for some reason, rap parties just aren't, like, eliciting that level of fun in people. The hip-hop shows. I don't know what to do about it, personally. I think maybe
Yeah.
we have to make funner music for live or something. But, like, it doesn't feel like the people that want to go out and have fun on a Friday night want to spend their time in environments where they can't dance and turn up.
And the
And
thing
then
about it, yeah, I'll go.
and then like I guess as artists, you know, you don't want to sell out and shit, but there is like, yo, listen, I have my joint Lose Weight. It's upbeat, motherfuckers like it live, but the song's like, yo, stop whining about shit. If you want to fuck her, get in shape, bro. Show her you got some game. You know, like that's the song in a nutshell. But it's also like, you know, be healthy. You don't want to die and shit. So it's like, but it's like this proactive shit. And like I always try to think, okay, like I got songs that I don't want to perform live because like you're thinking about it. You're out on a Friday night. Like, you want to be listening to that at the venue when there's girls and shit around? Nah, you want some shit that, like, maybe you get to go grind on shoddy.
Yeah,
Otherwise, like, and I think that there's a disconnect between the goals of rappers and their music and the desires of audiences on a Friday night when they're at a fucking venue at a show. And that disconnect hasn't been figured out yet, because then our shows are hot and people want to come to them. And I don't actually have the solution. I am in the process of failing to figure this out. I'm learning through failure, and we will figure it out. And at some point, I don't know the solution, but once we can find the right recipe of artists and sounds that attracts the right kind of party but still has the live environment, that's when we get to create the footage that we can show people is lit. Because right now, a lot of our footage is you don't show the crowd. And it's
exactly. And the thing about I agree 100% what you're saying too. Because the reason why a lot of artists would feel, to resort, to, the cap and stuff, because, they see us as popular, they see us as trending, but, in life, not just music, you just got to get beyond your comfort zone and just, you just got to, take risks. Like, a lot of the music scene here be so fried, just a lot of people, just become real with themselves because and the reason why a lot of people feel that they don't talk about them being real because a lot of people think that they'll lose views or that wouldn't sound as cool as that kind of lifestyle they're talking about. Like all that's doing is making it look bad for the people that is actually about that life. That's all that's doing. So
to be fair, I think a lot of artists don't want to do the business side of it all. To be real with you, like when I talk to beat makers, videographers, those people, their number one complaint is rappers don't want to pay for shit. Rappers want the whole world for free, and the business side is weird. And like I'm a branding guy. Like if you follow me, you know I'm selling pickle shit. I went as far as to get the fucking chain and shit. But it's because I've sold 22 items of clothing with pickles on them to people so far. And I barely focused on this. This just kind of happened in the middle of other shit, so I capitalized on it. But yo, it took a lot of understanding community to get this pickle thing to be a thing, and now it's a thing. Like Steele of Smith and Wesson was telling me last week that some girl he's vibing with wants to steal the pickle shirt I gave him, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? So cool. But like that wasn't an accident. That's good business practice and understanding people and recognizing food content was super attractive on the internet. And like, okay, so how can I take my personality and mix it with what's actually trending to mix into something I can sell, right? Like that song is because I was mad when I started off with a song called I Don't Like Pickle Chips. And I was just annoyed because every time I go, I want pickles, people make fun of me and shit. pro pickle people are really like that, and everybody that don't like pickles knows what the fuck I'm talking about, which is why it works, because this is like some real people truth. So I was just salty and made a whole goofy song about pickles and not liking shit and fuck you, I let me eat what I want, I'm a grown man. Honestly, that's the whole song. But that resonated with people, and it polarized people on this great pickle debate, which again is the stupidest shit ever to me. But simultaneously, it's so regular, and people are fucking very comfortable talking about how they feel about this shit. And then people started tagging me in pickle shit, so I started resharing the pickle shit, and it's just become this whole wave for people. Like people like it, and it's so strange, but like people aren't willing to embrace the waves of their content. Like you have to give people hooks. You have to try new things. Like I recognize that, like people want your life. So I started a vlog recently. It's not my comfort zone. It's so hard to remember to take pictures and videos and all this shit and then to sit there and fucking edit it for 45 minutes on my phone and shit. But like that's like creating the content to market my brand so that people care about my music, because like that's always been part of the game. And when you look at that side of it, I don't really see artists pursuing it. I don't really see artists like, yo, people your age be wildly doing this shit too, right? Like, so you got to think about it. If the average real consumer of music is going to be 16 to 24, because everyone older don't give a fuck, and y'all are on TikTok doing TikTok shit, how are we even supposed to communicate with y'all if we're not willing to be where you are and kind of communicate via the ways that you communicate? It's super weird for me to have to convert it into that. But like, if I want to be authentic to myself, I have to find a way to do it for me. But I also have to be willing to change with the times, lest I be so authentic I'm a dinosaur that can't compete. So
Exactly.
I don't see artists willing to adapt that quickly to this type of shit. Yes, some are willing to, but like when it comes to marketing, bro, like people be wildly not interested. Like even this whole show, right? Like I recognized that what I was doing as a rapper wasn't enough, and I needed a way to attract the attention of rappers in my city to gain some clout, as the kids call it. And so I started interviewing people because apparently nobody else was really doing interviews. Not to say that there weren't. I know 514 Online Mix and I helped build each other up when we started doing this because we were hitting the same people. We both started independent of each other. And all of a sudden, there's more shit now. But when you talk to like 150 people in the city and you put them on your show, people don't perceive you the same no more. All of a sudden, you're like providing value in a completely different way. And I say all this to just kind of be like, I think artists also need to think about value they provide. Like, yo, some of y'all can be artists that are managers, and somebody could just learn to be a booking agent, and somebody could learn about like sync placements, and like we don't all have to be fucking the same shit. So like for me, I saw this vacancy in blogs too recently. I know like it's I don't know how I'm gonna manage it all, but like nobody's writing about our scene. So like nobody is writing about me when I perform live, so I can quote it on my press kit. So to fill that need, I started writing about other people performing live. I think it's a little tacky to quote myself, but the thing is like these are roles in the city that are lacking if we want to talk about industry. There's not enough bloggers. There's not enough fucking album reviewers. Not like fucking corny reaction shits, but people putting it in writing. People creating real media. There's not enough booking agents. Like, when was the last time anybody talked about their booking agent? That's a whole job. That's different than manager. A manager works with the booking agent. Then there's PR people. Ain't nobody being a PR person. And when you start like thinking about it, you're like, oh, but everybody a graphic designer. Everybody's become their own sound engineer and shit. But like, yo, I'm a pretty mediocre sound engineer and I know it. I know how to do enough basic bullshit to survive as a rapper if I need to put something out. Basic bullshit. But there's not a lot of interviewers like this. There's not a lot of journalists, we can call it. I went down a journalism route. So, like, why are people not taking on additional roles? Especially in your 30s, bro. All the rappers in their 30s have multiple roles. There's almost no such thing as a successful rapper in his 30s that's just a rapper. You know what I mean?
Facts. That's true. Because, you have a lot of rappers, every single rapper, I've done this. Every single big rapper like Jay-Z and them, where they start off, in the streets, then they go to rapping and they build a career. Then after, their career, is done, they're not relevant no more. They venture out, into business and become like millionaires. A good example is Chameleonaire. I'm riding, they see me rolling, they hating. Like after his career, started going down, especially after the ringtone era went down, he started, investing in business and it ended up becoming, one of the
Facts.
richest rappers in history.
Just to be clear, it was make something the YouTube whatever. He's invested in one of the largest YouTube networks right now. Right now, like I watch people like Todd in the Shadows and a bunch of other guys, and they're like under his like umbrella company and shit. And it's like he got in like 2010, I think, and he makes so much money off of tech that like the rap doesn't matter. You know, like he's I think he's one of the biggest winners of music, to be honest with you.
Facts. He took a lot of people may say that he took a lot of people may say that he fell off where music is concerned, but where longevity is concerned, he took the biggest dub, the biggest one compared to everybody else in his field, where rapping is concerned
Or at least in his era, because Jay
in
Z
his
kind
era.
of
Yeah,
took a bigger
yeah,
dub.
yeah, yeah. But Jay-Z and Chameleon is two perfect examples of where you can't see yourself trapped on beyond your comfort zone. You got to see yourself beyond your comfort zone. You
Or
got
look
to
at
see
Kanye.
yourself.
I mean, look at what Kanye did to fashion. Like, I bought some
Facts.
shoes from French Connection, and they're basically like wannabe Yeezys.
Exactly, yeah. Because, music, it's not just rap in general, music could only get you so far too. And especially too, with a lot of these, messed up record deals, these messed up record contracts is concerned, a lot of artists don't end up seeing the money that they're supposed to get or the money they hope to get. So a lot of them, venture out to other things to recoup some of the money. And when they venture into business and stuff, they realize that they're making way more money in business than they do in music. Like for example, Beats by Dre, for example. You know how much of a billionaire made Dr. Dre's company Beats by Dre?
Yeah.
Way more than how much he would receive just doing music than just doing music alone. Even though he made a lot of money off of music.
Yeah, I'll be 100% with you. My music is currently just an advertisement for the rest of my life. Like, that's kind of how I see it now. Like, I think my podcasts are more monetizable, like that ass. Like we just got to interview Agala Don Bishop, fucking Steele of Smith and Wesson, and Dinko Dia, leaders at a new school. Once those are out, imagine who we get on the next trip type thing. You know, like we building this shit, and that's not like I have a parallel show that's basically this show, but with my man's in New York. So that's more like the one I see popping, whereas this is like the Montreal version or like the more local, it's my shit version. But either way, it like just to your point, like I had to go to another city to actually build up my portfolio. Like I got to interview Immortal Technique, and that was like the big one that like changed, and even that changed shit back home because it's like, what can you say to me? I got to go interview Immortal Technique based on the merit of my skill as an interviewer, dude. And he gave us more time than he initially offered us, which is fucking great. And so, but like, you have to leave Montreal sometimes just to see new ways of doing things too. And it's like, you have to be more interesting if you want to be an artist because, like, really, you're competing with like fucking everything in this city. Like, for like 2 weeks, you're competing with Jazz Fest, bro. For like literally
Exactly.
2 weeks. And then you have Just for Laughs, another 2 weeks that you're competing with. Yo, I wildly see like apparently there's an artist that's upset because the show we booked is similar to when their show is, so they're mad. And I don't know nothing really about the nuances of it, but like people get jealous if shows get booked too close to each other. But I'm like, bro, it's Montreal. Pick a day of the week. There's 100 shows. Like that's just you know what's crazy is that's something that might be a Montreal problem. Like in Toronto, Sunday at like midnight, you're in bed, bro. Like you're not out. You have work in the morning because Toronto's expensive, so people ain't like
Facts.
like it's different. So Montreal, like Sunday at 10, you're 12, you're like, there's definitely somewhere I can go, and that's what's crazy about Montreal is there's always somewhere you can go, in a way where
Exactly.
like it does create a highly competitive scene. So then artists in Montreal for hip hop have to actually go to other genres of music, go to a rave. I performed at a rave in the fall, and bro, the set looked like some fucking Stargate shit. Like they really put effort into building some shit. Like it probably only cost them like $300, but they knew how to make art. So like they made some cool shit. And you're looking at this stage and you're like, huh, this is just fire. Like, this is fucking cool. And it's like the little nuances of creating spectacle we don't do, like smoke machines are $500 or whatever. You know, like these things that you can do to make your shit look cooler and bigger, and like artists just fucking show up at Blue Dog and rap kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly, and you see exactly, what you're saying too, and that's also, one of the reason why I decided to make this, sound system too. It's so artists, because so it could be, easier. So it could be like, easier, for artists, just to get a buzz, get themselves heard. And even when they do these mixes, because I'm pretty sure you're seeing the mix on YouTube, where the way I would do these mixes of all these songs over that one beat, I don't just do the typical DJ thing and then just play the music and just keep quiet. The thing I would usually do is that I'll basically, play the music and basically, talk over the music, pause it, talk over and say some funny things and keep the music playing. Just speak over it, just to entertain the people, just to entertain the audience. And that's a lot of thing that was done, in Jamaican music is concerned too. Or if you basically, go to like a Jamaican party or you listen to like a reggae mix, a dancehall mix on YouTube, most likely you're gonna hear the DJ, the selector talking over the music and just saying some funny stuff, saying some slick things, or just playing a lot of sci-fi space sound effects over it. So basically that kind of influence, I want to make myself stand out too when we doing these kind of mixes concerns. So I'm just not your regular DJ.
And I'm gonna give you your credit. You have a cool voice for it.
Respect.
Like, you have a personality. Honestly, bro, I heard your shit, and I'm like, I don't think I heard a lot of things that sound like this before. This is cool. Like, I just hit you up. Like, I mean, I hit you up after you had Showbiz on, was a big part of it. But like, also, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I'd seen your post for a hot minute, and then I saw that, and I was like, this is interesting to me, because I don't see people making moves like that. Just like another interesting move was this kid Drew. He's fucking making interesting moves. He made a project that was just pure Montreal. All the features from Montreal, all the beats from Montreal, and like, he's not the first guy to do it, but the fact that he did it, he's the first guy in his little wave of age group that I've seen do it. You know, like, and so when people make these kinds of moves, you see the community centrism, you see the way that they're focusing on their city. It's like, that's what we need more of. I'm curious to see how your platform develops more. Like, I don't know exactly what you're gonna do next with it, but I'm super curious.
Like the thing I'm doing now where Spaceville Hi-Fi is concerned, I'm trying to, be more active on social media where I'm trying to get, more people in Montreal, interested, in, hearing the sound, interested in, being fans in the sound. So the thing I usually do, I will not mostly upload that stuff to YouTube. I'll create a social media too. And the thing I would do is that I mentioned before that the main point of Spaceville Hi-Fi is to basically give artists English artists a platform, so they could, become big because you have a lot of French artists have a platform too and have a buzz. So I want English artists in the city to have a platform and a buzz too. So the thing I'll mostly do is that I wouldn't mostly, post remix of Spaceville Hi-Fi on social media. I mostly do like music promo, where basically I'll, free music promo for now because I'm getting a page off the ground. So I basically, do some research, check out some dope, English artists come from the music scene. Then basically, do like music promotion, and like, just promote the artists, promote the songs on the story and the post and all that. And you could check the Instagram page too, Spaceville Hi-Fi, where basically it's just a bunch of promos mostly. And even on TikTok too. The thing I'm mostly, doing, taking advantage of, the short video route. Because the thing I'm mostly doing, is like, top five Montreal songs of each year, where basically shed light, on some of the hottest music that a lot of the English, artists dropped. That a lot of the English artists drop, in this year's concern. And I would do top five because if I do top 10, it will basically be done too soon. So I want to do top five so I have, more enough content to do. So I have enough chance of, gathering engagement, building up a slow following. So when people see that Spaceful Hi-Fi is more than just a sound system. It's actually an outlet for artists because the main objective of Spaceful Hi-Fi is not to only push the space bit sound from Montreal to the world, but the music scene in general for Montreal to the world too. Because it's
Mm.
not just 100% English artists that just doing these mixes too. I also mix some French artists too at time. Like if you look into the footsteps space the mix, I basically remix artists like Rain Man. I remix Rain Man, Dubmatic. So mostly remix the not only remix the upcoming artists, I'd also pay tribute to like the foundation artists, the veterans in the Montreal music scene that really helped pave the way for a lot of the artists today. So in that mix, I did like Dubmatic. They have impact in the music scene. Rain Man too, one of the biggest in the music scene, from the 1990s. So I want
Bro, I
people
had no
listening.
idea who Rain Man was when I met them, to be honest with you. We both ended up opening for Killer Priest a couple months
Yeah,
back, and I'm like, I don't know who the fuck they were. And then I
yeah,
found out they are, in fact, like huge legends in our scene and have done a lot
facts.
to pave the way. And
Yeah,
that's why, like, I think shit like this is actually really important. It's hard to Google the hip hop scene, to be honest with you. I started that project. I have a list I made. It's 36 hours of English Montreal hip hop, but it took forever to make it, and it's not like a simple project. I'm actually trying to figure out a guy how we could automate the process and make it like web crawlers pull a bunch of Montreal data. But like,
exactly.
but if we can pull that off, man, it's like, because you know what happened? I got annoyed with rappers thinking they sounded original, but clearly had to listen to other rappers in the city. But then I would Google the top 5 and top 10 list, and it's always the same names. And then I realized nobody knows how big our scene is. Like nobody
Exactly.
knows. And there's not a human in our city right now that can tell you how many rappers are in our city.
And the thing about it too, where the Montreal music scene is concerned, English and French, both language concerned. Montreal is a unique scene because what city basically have like a unique music scene like Montreal, whereas basically mostly both English scene and a French music scene. Most
Yo, and
cities
it's not
just
even
one
just
music
that.
scene.
There's also a Spanish scene where people don't even recognize that there's other scenes. Like people don't even know how much Spanish hip hop there is here. Like people act like it. And that's the thing is that it's so disconnected. Also, why are the DJs, the breakdancers, the graph people, and the rappers so disconnected in Montreal? There's almost no unison between us.
Exactly.
Like yo, there's DJ parties, you don't see rappers at it.
Yeah.
Shut up, Blaster. Blaster will pull up at her shit, but outside of Blaster, I don't see a lot of DJs pulling up to the rap shows unless we pay you to be there to be our DJ. Um,
Yeah.
we don't know nothing about the graph people because we don't even pay attention like that. I bet most Montrealers don't even realize there's an active graph scene. Like, don't even aware. And then the break dancers, they just be doing their own thing. I don't think any of
Yeah.
us talk to them really. And that's like when you think about it kind of weird. So if like all these elements are so disconnected from each other, and even on the English and French thing to add to that, like while we separate ourselves as artists, the people of Montreal don't separate us. They don't see a fucking difference. I'll bet if English and French people rapped at the same shows more, we'd actually just do better because most of Montreal is kind of a little bit bilingual, or
Yeah.
just at least a little bit.
And
So
plus
it's like,
two,
yeah, we don't think about the fans, as I guess where I'm going, and what the fans want and what the fans notice or care about. We just focus a lot on our shit.
yeah. And plus two, the thing from day one, always have faith in the Montreal music scene because, I have a lot of, because I have some friends too, where they just, generalize, some Montreal rappers, oh, Montreal rappers, this Montreal rappers, that Montreal rappers are trash. And the thing about it too is that the Montreal music scene is actually like a unique scene. Like if you actually, dig deep, you could actually find some gold. You actually find some, gold in a landmine that basically not much people know about. So what I do with SpacevilleHiFi, I basically, find the gold in like the landmine and I basically, make a platform for it so the masses could see it. So people could see that, the Montreal music scene have a very good unique scene because this is something that the rest of the city needs to know about, that the world needs to know about. Because there are some
Facts.
times where, American people be reacting to Montreal music and they're shocked because they're shocked at the fact that, wow, Montreal rappers got talent. Whoa, crazy. Like, you got to
Montreal
give shout out.
rappers don't actually. You're making a good point because we don't. Not enough of us try to go outside of our city and show our music to the rest of the world.
Facts. So you gotta, give big respect, to the artist that, that's really, breaking the barrier and, achieving success too. Like you gotta big up artists like, for example, like, artists like, Skyfall, like Xena, for example, all the artists in the Montreal music, even Nate Husser too. You gotta really
Maya
give credit.
Ali's doing it. Zach Soya's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give Tagans his love too. He may not be
Yeah.
as well known, but Tagans is out there doing it.
Even the gray era too, with
Yo, shout out
with
the
T.
Guerrera. They be doing it.
Yeah, so you gotta give big shout out your credits do and just shout out all the artists in the state as prospering and being successful because well a lot of artists is concerned, especially the English scene's concerned, the the system was not designed for English artists to succeed. So you gotta give the English artists preps for beating the odds and being successful at the same time.
Facts. Yo, I really appreciate this conversation, but unfortunately, I think we're hitting the point where we've got to move on to other things in the day.
Yeah,
Um, and don't get me wrong, we've broken 2 hours, so you're in a good, healthy range for this shit.
yeah,
Um, I think you're a really smart dude, and I really appreciate a lot of the insights you have in it. And I think it's cool what you're doing with the Spaceville project. If you ever need help with anything, just holla. It really takes a village to build it up, and if people are all kind of sharing a goal of building up this scene, we have to work together and share resources and knowledge, and maybe depending on what you're up against, there's people I've met that can help type thing, and there's a lot more open-mindedness and shit happening once you get into the tier of people who have figured it out. And it's just hard to bridge the gap between those two groups for a lot of reasons. But when people who are making moves come across people who are making moves, the best thing we can do is share resources. So if you ever need help with anything, holla, and we'll see what we can do.
I
Um,
thank you.
but I definitely appreciate you, man. All your links and shit are gonna be in the description of the video,
All right,
and people can follow you like that and hit you up. And I should all definitely check out what he's making with these waves. It's just interesting sounds to me, at least. And it doesn't sound like anything I really heard before. So, like, when you're saying it's new,
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, he's got a point. And he's on some shit. Um,
yeah,
I think you're impressive and smart, and you should really just keep pushing this for real.
thank you.
Um, with all that, though, thank y'all watching this because, otherwise it's just a conversation, which is lovely to have. But y'all make it a show knowing that people are going to watch it after. And I appreciate y'all too. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff you're supposed to do if you're feeling the wave. Patreon.com/behind that suit. And then you can, support us more fiscally like that. Or if you go on the Twitch and you have an Amazon Prime, you can give us a free subscription there. That's fire too. Appreciate all of you watching. Make sure to catch you on the next time and live long and prosper, everyone.